on both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Co.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Rebellion continues to grow within the Conservative Party as an increasing number of MPs support overturning a ban on onshore wind farms. Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove is the latest to back the rebellion.
Well, a very good morning to you. It is 6 o'clock, isn't it? And you're watching GB News with Stephen and Anne at breakfast.
Yeah, of course. You know, we are live across the whole of the UK, wherever you are, on your TV, your radio and online. So whatever you're up to this morning, don't forget to take us with you. Let's run you through the top stories this morning, should we? And a new survey puts the Labour Party 18 points ahead of the Tories as Rishi Sunak attempts to quell a growing rebellion from within his own cabinet. The Tory party is facing new claims of bullying and inappropriate behaviour amid accusations that MPs physically manhandled House of Commons staff. It comes after civil servants reportedly prepare to submit new complaints against the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab.
World Cup fever continues as we head into the second week of the tournament. We look ahead to all the big matches you won't want to miss.
And just under a month to go until Christmas. 4 weeks today.
Yeah, 4 weeks today.
Experts say
that's
today...
a nice tree.
Oh, that's very nice. That looks royal, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Experts say today is the best time to pick your tree, to get the pick of the crop. We'll bring you the tips and tricks to keep it in top condition.
You need a room to go with it, though, really, don't you?
You do with
those
a tree
are big
like that.
trees, yeah, absolutely fantastic, though. Actually, we'd still love some pictures of your Christmas trees. Did you go out yesterday, like Stephen did, and get the tree? Spent all day putting it up and decorating it, and
See, I now feel
fabulous.
I feel Christmassy now.
Yeah, it sets the mood, doesn't it, for the next 4 weeks, exactly. So do get in touch. Tell us how you're feeling today. Are you looking forward to Christmas? What are you going to do? And have you got your tree up yet? And if you have, pictures, please. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
So we will kick off with that rebellion within the Conservative Party. Increasing number of MPs unhappy over this ban on onshore wind farms, including some members of the Cabinet, including Michael Gove, and the Business Secretary Grant Shapps and former PMs Boris Johnson and Liz Truss also supporting the change.
And this comes as a new poll puts Labour 18 points ahead of the Tories, a margin that would grant Keir Starmer's party a landslide victory at a general election. But of course, we're not there, are we? But we are in an extraordinary place. Let's speak to the Director of Orthodox Conservatives, Joseph Robertson. A very good morning to you. It's not a very good morning for the Tory party, actually, because it seems that they're in disarray within and making themselves very vulnerable to criticism from without.
Yeah. Has there been a good morning for the last few weeks? I'm not sure. They've been moving from one thing to another. Yeah, I think there's two things going on here. One, you're seeing quite a few attacks from a media perspective from Labour, who are beginning to see that the jugular's open wide.
Well, so they can smell blood in the water.
Yeah, exactly. And I think all this thing with, you know, the Raab story and the bullying and all this kind of, all these accusations coming across, a lot of this is part and parcel to what goes on in politics day to day. But of course, you know, the reality is now it's accentuated by the fact the government are mismanaging everything else. You know, saying that they won't leave energy options open when we're in an energy crisis, not the smartest thing to do. You know, and I think right now what they need is a massive overhaul and a reality check. Many of their own MPs threatening to leave at the next general election. I think it's up to about 9 now who've said they'll exit and not be on the selection list. So it's all going south from that perspective.
The one thing that could change it is a very strong leader. Is Rishi Sunak a very strong leader that we need?
Not at all. I'd say he's almost a sock puppet to the whims of others in a sense. There's been a strong sense that he's kind of, as it were, pushed around by Hunt in many ways, certainly on budget issues. He's kind of trying to appeal to both sides at once, talking about tackling the cultural issues, but at the same time doing nothing for those who were proponents of them, especially those who voted for Brexit. And this kind of thing. So he's very much trying to play both sides, and because of that, he's not showing any strong leadership credentials.
What are we to make of this revolt over onshore wind?
I think the first thing to be said on that is even onshore wind would not be enough at this stage.
Oh, no, but it's something.
It's something. It's something. I mean, wind accounts for about 24% of the electricity grid. You know, it's a big contributor to our electricity supply. But it does nothing from a fuel perspective, which is where they're not really touching. I think the fact that they're
How does it do nothing from a fuel perspective? If it's providing a quarter of our power.
In terms of bridging the gap, that's only electricity. So when we're talking about logistics, when we're talking about transport, that fuel has to come from somewhere. It can't come from wind power. And of course, when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, how do you then get electricity that's not coming from those quote-unquote renewable sort of sources? And your only options really are nuclear and coal. Obviously, coal is massively scaled back. The only way that we could get that working within 2 years would be to open 10 or 12 new plants now. Nuclear is a similar story. We need to be putting massive investment into that. This is a long-term issue that's not going to go away. And I think the government are looking at it as something that's going to be resolved within a year, which is blue sky thinking as far as I'm
and
concerned.
politically, it just shows the fractures within, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, it's incredible. You're thinking of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss sort of uniting on something here in a revolt, Michael Gove included. In fact, that's a very powerful revolt, isn't it?
It is. And something that I've been discussing with other people, especially in think tanks and across the board, is that nothing can actually be implemented in terms of policy because there's so much change and so much shift. We're not really talking about big ideas. We're talking about constant infighting. And that's dangerous regardless of who's in government. Whether you agree with them ideologically or not, nothing can actually be achieved.
Well, does that indicate time for a change?
I think so.
You do? I mean, as a Conservative, you think it's time for a change?
I think, in a sense, the only thing that will wake up the party is a radical realisation that they can't keep going on like this. And I think the only way to do that is to really see the fact that you wasted the biggest majority you've had in a way that's so spectacular that the only thing to do is to rebuild and regrow. And I think you're seeing it with other parties coming through now, like Reform is going to split the Conservative vote massively. And you're also seeing similar things on the left, it must be said. Labour aren't in complete control, and I think the Lib Dems are also set to make huge gains. I think we're heading into an era of coalition because neither of the major parties are very convincing.
And I suppose the fundamental question there is, what is the most likely coalition going to look like?
Well, if being a pessimist, from my perspective, I'd say Labour Lib Dem seems to be the most likely route. But who knows? You know, if Reform come through and start stealing those points at the polls, there may be something to be said for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. But I just find it fascinating that as an orthodox Conservative, you're in essence saying that they need to spell in opposition.
Absolutely.
The real power in the Tory party isn't the parliamentary party, is it? It's the grandees, it's the big financiers, it's the 1922 committee people. What are they thinking at the moment? What will they be thinking? Are they just thinking, yes, OK, well, we have to... Because they can take it, they've got the money, they've got the power to be able to withstand a few years of opposition. Is that what they're thinking as well?
They're in crisis management mode at the moment. So I think that kind of thinking comes closer to the action when you realise that you genuinely do have an issue at the polls. For now, it's going to be more about what can we do to save some of the structure of the party inside. No one really wants an opposition. I'm saying it's needed, not that I want it, and there's a very big difference there. What I am suggesting is that it will happen unless something changes. And I think donors especially are starting to understand that and starting to look where else their money could go, because right now we're having a similar issue as we had before Brexit, where the Conservative government isn't listening to the will of the people. And those protest votes are where that kind of money is going to start looking.
But we can't have another leadership election or even another coronation, can we?
No, we can't, but we have to make do with what we have. But that's what was said about Liz, and look what happened there.
Yeah,
so, you know, be careful what you wish for.
Well,
Joseph,
yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Joseph Robertson from Orthodox Conservatives. Good to see you this morning. Do you agree?
Can I point you towards what I think is one of the best cartoons ever? It was on the front page of the Times, the Sunday Times this morning, and it shows a sort of emergency services operator on the end of the line. I think we've got a picture of it. And she's saying, which service do you require? Racist, misogynist or useless? And that's how they see the choice. It's pretty damning, isn't it?
Blimey.
And that's how things look at the moment, if you look through the newspapers. We've got, we've got important, like something like the fire brigade and the police are being deemed institutionally racist or institutionally both racist and misogynist. And you could actually say that maybe others, maybe even the government, is looking like useless at the moment. I think that's one of the most damning cartoons I've seen, front page of today's Sunday Times.
It is damning. I just wonder what, and if you're a Conservative supporter, if you agree with Joseph saying he doesn't want Tories to be in opposition, but he thinks it's needed, you know, a few years to regroup,
Kick up the backside.
Well, it does happen. There is a cycle of politics, isn't it? Isn't there? After a long period of time in power, this is things fall apart.
You get the feeling that things fall apart because maybe there's a lot of complacency and. Maybe you've got to be hungry for power
to be united.
To be united,
yeah. Because it's the splits, isn't it? Which isn't it? I keep saying, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
In it.
I don't know where I've picked that up from.
Just go in it.
I've clearly been watching too much television.
You really have.
Cheap dramas.
Although not yesterday, he was very, very busy doing the Christmas tree.
I was.
Yesterday.
Christmas tree day yesterday.
Can we show our lovely viewers a picture of your Christmas tree?
Oh, no, I haven't sent one in yet.
Oh, well, we'll do one a bit later. But if you can... And I'll ask you if you can outdo Stephen's tree, because it's absolutely gorgeous.
It's nice.
It is lovely.
And it does. I feel Christmassy now.
Yeah, the house looks Christmassy now and cosy and lovely.
It smells Christmassy.
Yeah.
It's all that sort of thing. Though by the time we get home this morning, the cat's probably destroyed the Christmas tree and all that sort of thing.
Big row going on in our newsroom as to whether you should go for a real Christmas tree or a fake one. And Stephen was saying, yeah, but it's not just the look, it's the smell. But you can buy the smell of Christmas tree in a can now, can't you?
Quite the same. It's not quite the same. And I know the artificial ones are so convenient. And they look great. They're expensive to buy,
yes,
though.
they're very expensive.
I know they last you for years.
And at the after Christmas, you can take yours out into the garden and burn it. Right? Where you can't with a false Christmas tree. You have to go through this. It takes a whole day to undo it and pack it away.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'd be rubbish at that. I'm not good at IKEA stuff.
No, it's very much like that. It used to take hours to put up my fake one. I got rid of it a couple of years ago and have gone real now. But I haven't gone out and got mine yet. But today's the day to do it.
And you said you were going to get yours
I know.
Get up at the start of
I know.
November.
I know. It's
I've
breakfast
beaten
television gets in the way. Watching it is one thing, doing it is another.
Yeah, but anyway, we're all up and running in Dixon Towers.
Let us know how you're getting on at your home. Have you got your tree up yet? Is it half done? Is it completely done? Will it outdo Stephen's? We'll show you a picture of Stephen's one a bit later on. Shall we? By the way, get in touch, though, with your pictures, please. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Want to hear how you're getting on.
It is 12 minutes past 6. Let's bring you up to date with what else is going on today. And police have launched a murder investigation into the fatal stabbing of two 16-year-old boys in south-east London. They happened yesterday evening, a mile apart in Thamesmead. Greenwich are trying to determine whether the incidents are linked.
The government says the online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. It says the changes were influenced by Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her life in 2017 after looking at suicide and self-harm content. The new offence would target online material that manipulates the vulnerable, making it illegal to do so.
Cases of asylum seekers with diphtheria are thought to have risen following the death of a man at the Manston Migrant Processing Centre. It's thought cases of people with the disease have climbed to about 50.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales have paid tribute to the rugby union great Doddy Weir, who died yesterday, aged 52. In a tweet, the royal couple called the former Scotland international a hero and an inspiration. He'd suffered from motor neurone disease, and he used his high profile to raise awareness of the condition and generate funds.
Now, it's been a whirlwind of a beginning to the football in Qatar as the World Cup reaches the end of its first week.
Yes, Lionel Messi and Enzo Fernandez scored brilliant second-half goals. Yeah, I watched every one of them to keep Argentina in the World Cup. Meanwhile, France made it into the last 16.
Let's get the very latest from Aidan McGee, who's here to bring us up to date. I have to say, we feel a little bit, not to downplay it, but we see when England or Wales are involved, we're a bit like,
there's a big world outside of England and Wales. We saw some brilliant football yesterday, some brilliant stories emerging as well. Argentina were right up against it. They lost against Saudi Arabia in their first match, of course. I don't recall Argentina going out in the first round too many times in the past. I can't recall, in my lifetime, I'm not sure I can recall too many bigger upsets than Saudi Arabia beating Argentina. Could go back to what you said yesterday and about how each team manages the heat. But last night, Argentina didn't play particularly well, but one man came to the party just when they needed him most, and that was Lionel Messi.
Right.
Arguably the greatest player who's ever lived. Some people would make that case. Fading light, you'd say, in the last couple of years, especially for his club since he left Barcelona. Unfulfilled as an Argentina player to some degree. He has won the Copa America, but he's yet to win the World Cup. And he'll always be compared to Maradona because Maradona did manage to win the World Cup.
Yeah, he's a name that even I know. What club does he play for at the moment?
Messi plays for Paris Saint-Germain in France.
Why do I know his name so well, then?
He played for Barcelona for years. He's been around for years. Him and Ronaldo, that's always the generational argument between who's the best out of the two. But, yeah, look, he opened the scoring in the second half. It wasn't a vintage Argentina performance, but a tough game against Mexico. Had they lost last night, that would have been them going home. And then, of course, France, just before that, Kylian Mbappe. Now, he's the heir apparent to Ronaldo and Messi, possibly, another generational talent. He scored twice against Denmark. France broke the curse, actually, last night. Four of the last World Cup winners have gone out in the first round in the following edition of the World Cup, which is quite extraordinary when you think about it. It happened to France themselves back in 2002, I think it was, after they won in 1998. So they win. They're the first team through to the next round. Big night tonight as well. D-Day for Germany, you'd have to say, because they lost their first game against Japan in quite surprising circumstances last week. They're playing for Spain tonight. Defeat for them could see them go out in the first round for the second time in a row. I don't remember Germany going out in the first round in my lifetime.
So
they normally go deep. I can't think of too many times when they've even finished below the quarterfinals. If they do this having won it in 2014, if they then go out in the next two tournaments, a big game tonight. I mean, Spain won their first game 7-0 against Costa Rica. There's every chance Germany, a kind of a bedraggled Germany, I think you'd have to say, past their peak. If they lose tonight, they're out, and that's a huge blow for them. But then,
I'll tell you what, it makes us look good, though.
Well, it does, yeah. I mean, I think Germany would kill to have four points in the bag. They've got none tonight. I don't think there's any prospect. I think they'll lose tonight. I really do. And I think that would be them going home, and there'll be serious questions. I mean, that's a big thing in Germany for the team to not be the man shaft as they're known. To be struggling in that way. So, yeah, good roster of games today. Japan, Costa Rica, Belgium, Morocco, Croatia, Canada. We're really cramming them in at the moment, Anne, aren't we? Because it's a 29-day tournament. Yeah. There's no rest or anything like that. I've never known a situation before where we had 4 games in a day. But I suppose if you're a fan over there, it's probably quite good because all the grounds are within 50 miles of each other. You could probably take in 2 or 3 over the course of a day.
Yeah.
And then, so that's today. And then Monday is...
Monday, I'll have to check the roster for that one. That'll be Group A.
We're Tuesday, aren't we?
Oh, we're
Tuesday.
Yes,
we're Tuesday. Against Wales, that's a 7 o'clock kick-off. But I've got a lot riding on that because every team in England's group can still go up because that's what they call the group of death, when you go into the final group round of games, they kick off simultaneously. If all the teams can qualify, that creates quite an exciting situation. But France are the only team through to the second round so far. I should mention a couple of other sports as well. It's not all football at the moment. Dillian Whyte edged through to a points win last night over Jermaine Franklin. That puts him in pole position to take on Anthony Joshua now. Tyson Fury's so out in front that the rest are just fighting each other for the right to sort of have a go at him again. And then England...
Oh, didn't I see, was it yesterday, Uri Geller saying he wanted to he wants to take on Tyson Fury, and through the power of the mind...
Oh, I'd like to see that.
He will win.
Every time I've known Uri Geller do some spoon bending or mind bending or anything, it never works. He's about as reliable as my crystal ball.
Oh.
Well,
you've seen him bend spoons.
Oh yes, he's bent spoons in front of me.
Oh, he's actually bent. Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
okay.
and it's mind-boggling. You
Is
just
it really?
can't get your head around it at all. You can't figure out how he does it at all.
Incredible.
It's amazing, and he does it right up close.
Yeah.
But I mean, close-up magicians are brilliant.
Yeah, well, I can't claim to have achieved anything like that with my crystal ball.
But he's tried to do all sorts of things by the power of the collective
Well, it's
mind.
prediction, but it's predictions that he's... I mean, there was David Beckham's injury, wasn't it? He encouraged everyone to put their hand on the front page of the Sun.
Yeah.
Try and improve. It did work, but he didn't perform very well at the World Cup. And also England in the rugby as well, losing 27-13 to South Africa. Eddie Jones taking all the blame for that one, but I think they'll still have a...
And a lioness.
Yeah, we'll gloss over
it looks as though a lioness is going to win I'm a Celebrity as well, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah, she's doing really well. We were talking about that with
She's
Haley
the
Palmer yesterday.
hot favourite to win.
Do you know, what about Matt Hancock? Is he in there? Or is he another one we're not talking about?
I
don't think he's a hot favourite.
No, I don't think he's hot favourite at all. And I think he might do well, but I think she's the popular one.
OK. You going to watch it tonight?
No.
No?
It's the big final. Is it the big final?
Final tonight, apparently.
That's it, yeah. I'm just saying, the big game of football tonight, so that's my excuse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You do that. I'll be early in bed because I'm back here tomorrow.
Yeah, you
so.
are, aren't you? I'll be early in bed anyway. Or I might still be putting up my tree.
Oh, you might get it up
You've got
today.
your tree up yet?
No, I'm still thinking about it. I'm having the debate that you're having about whether it
Fake
should be a
or
real
fake.
one. I think they can get a can. You
can get a can of Christmas tree
that
smell.
might be my new aftershave.
You can get a can of new car smell.
Oh, you can.
Well, that's about time.
Yes.
That's fantastic. What about new
Really?
carpets?
You've got an old jalopy and you just spray
Yeah,
it.
what about new carpets?
Oh, that's true. New carpet smell is a wonderful smell, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Very
they take
nice,
a lot of hoovering, don't they? To get all the
No,
bits up.
that's shake and vac you're thinking of. It's not the same thing at all.
No.
Oh, you mean new carpets?
New carpets.
Oh, yeah, you realise how much spare fluff there is, don't you, in a new carpet?
Spend a bit more, get a better one.
Yeah. Shake and vac, does that still exist?
Yes, it does.
Do the shake and vac, put the freshness back.
Yeah.
Is that lady?
It just puts an incredibly strong pong in your room.
I wonder what that lady's doing who used to do those
shake and vac
adverts. Yeah. She's probably in her 80s or something now.
At least, I would have thought, because it was a chronically old advert.
Very,
See if we can
very
get
old.
on GB News next week.
We never know. Aidan, thank you. Catch up with you a little bit later on.
Yeah.
We've got much more coming up for you. But first, let's have a look at the weather.
Looking ahead, the UK is looking cloudy and damp in the southeast, but brighter and blustery in the northwest. So let's take a look at the detail now.
Well, southwest England retaining some cloud through the day. 1 or 2 bright spells possible. Cornwall and Devon staying pretty dry, but some rain possible from Dorset eastwards.
And this early rain across southeast England could clear initially before redeveloping later, possibly heavy at times. It'll be mildest here, though, climbing towards 13.
Wales going to have a generally cloudy day, but there'll be some hazy sunshine poking through. It's going to feel a little bit fresher than Saturday.
And there could be some weak sunshine across central England as well, with the thickest cloud continuing to lift. But even where grey skies prevail, it'll remain predominantly dry through today.
And northern parts of England having a dry second half of the weekend. The winds lighter compared to Saturday, helping it feel less brisk when you step outside.
Scotland, meanwhile, will keep the blustery winds today, with scattered showers pushing into the northwest. These could be heavy at times, accompanied by hail and the odd rumble of thunder.
Moving on to Northern Ireland, blustery showers, but also some sunny spells. Across the north of the area, temperatures slightly down compared to Saturday, at highs of about 10 Celsius.
And the showers will feed into Wales and southeast England later, whilst the rain in the southeast gradually clears. And that's your weather today.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
6:24 morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, there's a bill going through the Scottish Parliament that would allow men to identify as women and vice versa simply by declaring themselves so.
But Olivia Utley has been to Edinburgh to find out more.
For a country with a population of just 5.5 million, Scotland seems to be facing more than its fair share of existential crises. While the war over independence rages bitterly on, new battle lines are being drawn up over an issue that could turn out to be even more contentious. A law that would fundamentally alter what it means to be a woman north of the border.
In a move that has sent shockwaves through Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament recently voted in favour of legislation that would allow men to become women and vice versa, merely by declaring themselves so. Under the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, Scotland, which is currently making its way through committee stage, adult Scots would be able to change their legal sex after 3 months of living in their acquired gender, without medical intervention or even a gender dysphoria diagnosis.
The SNP and Greens, the driving force behind the bill, argue that self-ID, as it is known, is necessary to make life easier for trans people, a historically marginalised group.
And that's why we propose to reform the process to make it simpler, more streamlined, more compassionate and less medicalised.
But some Scots are alarmed about the wider impact such a seismic change to the law could have on women's rights.
If you can't define what a woman is, if a woman in Scotland ceases to be somebody who's a female person, then we lose all of our sex-based protections. So I work in health, so my concern is how do we provide maternity services for people who are having babies who aren't female.
Among the most concerned are detransitioners, those who have undergone hormone therapy and surgery in order to make their bodies conform to that of the opposite sex, and who now want to go back to the way they were before.
Sinead Watson is one such person. At the age of 20, she started to identify as a man, binding her breasts and using the name Sean. But at 27, after 4.5 years on testosterone and a double mastectomy, she returned to living as a woman, having realised she had been incorrectly diagnosed as trans.
We know from the CAST review and from the other stories of detransitioners and all the new research and information that's coming out that a lot of this group have comorbid conditions. A lot of them are on the autistic spectrum, a lot of them suffer from internalised misogyny or homophobia, a lot of them have depression and anxiety and other forms of self-hatred like eating disorders. This is a very complex group, and so we cannot demedicalise it. When it comes to something like this, where the inevitable pathway is medical transition that irreversibly changes your body and in many cases can harm you, as cross-sex hormones harmed me, there needs to be some medical onlooking, there needs to be therapy, there needs to be treatment.
The bill suffered a big blow this week when when a UN senior official urged Scottish ministers to postpone it. But with overwhelming support from the ruling parties, it's hard to imagine this particular piece of legislation being kicked into the long grass. Ordinary Scots may not know it yet, but it seems genteel Edinburgh is to become the front line for the fiercest of culture wars, that which will decide what it means to be a woman. Olivia Utley, GB News, Edinburgh.
Tell you what I don't understand with that. It's a controversial issue. I don't want to go on about it much. But we say, well, what does it mean to be a woman? Or what does it mean to be a man? It applies equally both ways, doesn't it? But we focus on the woman. There's something more triggering about saying, what does it mean to be a woman, than there is, what does it mean to be a man?
I think just in society, it seems, rightly or wrongly, to be slightly more threatening to be a man who chooses to be a woman, because then that's a man, possibly, who is allowed into women's spaces. Do you know what I mean? I think that's why it is seen as more controversial.
But it's not balanced, is it?
No,
it's all about looking one way and not the other. But anyway.
Yeah, why can't we all just get on, as they say?
Yes.
Christmas. How are you spending your Christmas?
Oh, yes, let's talk
John says, I'm going to be coming down the motorway next Saturday to Putney, just outside London, where we will have a family get-together for Christmas dinner, old friends and family, all get together with the trimmings, the turkey, the crispy roast potatoes, the pigs in blankets and everything, then traditional Christmas pudding with cream. But you obviously travel a bit earlier than Christmas to have that sort of thing with friends and family.
Nice. And they say that intrigues me. Christmas pudding with cream.
Oh, yes.
Not white sauce. I mean, rum. It's all rum.
I thought you had chantilly cream on top of Christmas pudding.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've never eaten Christmas pudding in my life.
Oh.
Anything to do with raisins turns me right off. So
right.
Christmas pudding is like horrendous.
It's a white sauce or rum sauce.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I thought you always served it with chantilly cream and then a sprig of something in the top.
Yeah. You have to burn it and all that. Oh,
yeah.
Anyway. What do you
Set
have
it on
with your
fire
Christmas
is the best
pudding?
thing to do, I think.
Dave from Bedfordshire says, I'm celebrating my 70th birthday on Christmas Eve, the same day as my granddad and my aunt.
Oh.
In previous Christmases, the family used to party so much the floorboards would bounce up and down.
Oh, lovely.
They were happy times and gave us treasured memories.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Bet.
And George says, I wasn't going to put up a tree this year because tomorrow I'm going on a 3-week cruise from Lisbon to Rio. Wow.
Very nice.
But there will still be a Christmas period when I get back, so I put up the tree yesterday.
Yeah, well done,
We'll come
George.
home to a Christmas, but coming from Rio and then coming home to Christmas sounds rather lovely.
It does sound quite nice, doesn't it?
I've got a family birthday right bang next to Christmas, and it always gives us a problem as to, presents. So have you got any good ideas for a young man?
When's the birthday?
On the 20th.
Ah, right.
And he always moans that he doesn't get good enough Christmas presents. When he was born, he was the one born in Australia, and I always said to him, we'll always go out to Australia for your birthday, so you'll always have a birthday on the beach. Of course, that lasted about 4 years.
Yeah.
So, it's how to make somebody's birthday special if it's right bang next to Christmas.
It's difficult, isn't it? My nephew's birthday is on Boxing Day.
Same.
He's 3 this year, so it's not he's not going to mind yet. But as he gets a bit older, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. Have you got any good ideas? Have you got that happening in your family where there's a birthday almost right bang next to Christmas? How do you make it special?
Are you a Christmas baby?
Yeah.
Now that could be.
And are you called Noel? Because so many of them are. Noel
Are they?
Gordon was a Christmas baby.
Was she?
Noel Edmonds is a Christmas baby. Nearly every Noel you come across is usually called that because they were
Noel
born.
Gordon, the only female Noel that you know of?
Yeah, she was a Noel with a double L-E.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Oh.
I presume that was just the family's way of, conceding that it was a female version of Noel.
Right.
But yeah, if you're called Noel and you were born on Christmas Day, how do you cope with birthdays, for heaven's sake?
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, that one, isn't it? My family always said what you should do is either be like the Queen and have a birthday, the King. Oh, that's interesting.
No, he's not decided yet.
Oh, is he not? Whether he's going to have an official birthday?
Yes, it's all to do with trooping the colour.
Yeah.
Because they don't like to do those in winter months.
Right.
So if you have a birthday within winter months, which he does, normally you have a second official birthday.
He's November, isn't he?
He's
November
November.
16th.
But
14th
he hasn't officially decided yet whether he will have an official birthday next year.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, there you go, you see. It's a problem for them. Although apparently in the royal family, they used to delight in giving each other pretty mean gifts.
Did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's allegedly what Princess Diana always said, that she was completely sideswiped by it because they don't give each other lavish gifts at Christmas.
No.
They go a bit mean and sort of ironic.
Well, I suppose when when you've got everything?
What do you buy somebody who's got everything? So I think they would specialise in buying quirky, weird, mean, cheap presents. That's what is said. I don't know if it's true. But there's a whole spread I've just been seeing in the Sunday Times supplement here on how to have a frugal Christmas.
Oh.
And one is not to go out buying expensive baubles this year. You don't have to. You can bake them.
Bake them?
You can bake them in different ways. You could bake gingerbread cookies and ice them and hang them from the tree. Trouble is the dog
will eat
them. Yeah. Or you can do what we used to do with Play-Doh. You can make your own Play-Doh out of salt dough, basically. It's very, very high in salt. And you bake it and it goes unbelievably hard. And then you can ice it or paint it any way you want.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so there's lots of tips on how to have a frugal Christmas. That's my one for this hour.
Right, there you go. We'll bring you more throughout the course of the show. But still to come, we're going to take you through the Sunday papers with all the news and headlines.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
.36, you're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Shall we take a look at today's newspaper front pages? In the Sunday Times this morning, the head of the country's biggest fire brigade says he expects to sack staff over racist and misogynistic behaviour.
The Observer says the first major free trade agreement signed by Britain after Brexit is a failure, as trade between the UK and Japan has actually fallen.
The Sunday Express says migrants are being housed in military homes, whilst 2,500 British veterans do not have a roof over their heads.
Sun on Sunday says Prince Andrew is furious after being told that his taxpayer-funded police guard is to be axed.
And finally, in the Daily Star this morning, MPs are going to experience a lavish 5-course meal over Christmas at the same price they were able to pay in 2021, and the Star calls it Sprout of Order. Well, they had to go with something, didn't they?
I can't get overly excited about that, no. to be perfectly honest, because everything's subsidised in the Commons anyway. But anyway, let us know what you think. Let's go through the papers this morning with radio legend David Hamilton. Well, someone's written in there, David. Have you been having words with people? Radio legend.
He's a radio legend.
No, it's actually legend.
Oh, I see.
But you're a bookend here.
A bookend, yeah. And broadcaster Claire Muldoon, good morning to you. David, let's start with the Sunday Times, should we? And this fire chief who says he expects to sack workers for being racist and sexist.
Yes, can I say, first of all, Anne, you're looking very colourful this morning and very lovely. And you're looking lovely too, and Claire as well. What a lovely lineup.
Oh, it is
to be part of.
Thank you. Very much for pointing it out.
And I'm wearing my colourful tie especially for you.
Lovely.
Look.
Yes, that's a sunrise on it almost.
Yeah.
Very nice.
A little bit of sunshine, which we need. Listen, front page of the Times today, as you said in the headlines there, the head of the London Fire Brigade has said that he will sack staff who are guilty of misogyny and racism. Apparently, there are cases of sexual harassment and sexual assault, and he says that findings of review are horrifying and confidence and trust have been betrayed. So first the police, now the fire brigade. Honestly, who can we trust?
I know. Have you seen the cartoon on the front page of the Times? I think we've got a picture of it still, have we? The cartoon on the front page of the Times, where you've got a 999 telephonist, an answerer, who's saying, have we got it? We're still looking for it. Yeah. There we are. She's saying, which service do you require? Racist, misogynist, or useless? And funny on the one hand, but absolutely damning terrible on the other, isn't it?
Absolutely damning. But I wonder who commissioned the report, because that was kept under the cupboard. I didn't hear anything of this. I didn't know any movements, any report that was being done.
Well, there was the case of a firefighter who took his own life, didn't he?
He did.
After claiming that he had been treated appallingly from a racist point of view.
Some of the evidence is horrendous. Apparently there was a noose in a locker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely awful. It's disgusting.
I mean, there's no doubt
it's
he was bullied to death. And in the end, he, as I say, took his own life. And that may have started the inquiry. I don't know whether the inquiry had already started.
Yeah.
But it's uncovered
is this
more
UK
cases.
wide? Is this national?
It's not just one.
No, it's London.
Just one, is it?
Yeah, well, they were saying London Fire Brigade yesterday.
Right.
This was the issue. But, I mean, obviously, that's a significant...
But it's all very well for the fire chief to be saying he expects to sack. But I gather, if you read further into the story, there are a lot of firefighters who say, yeah, well, is he the guy to do this sort of... I mean, is he really going to be effective here? Because if an institution is institutionally racist or misogynist, don't you have to look to the people at the top?
Well, you do, because it's under their watch.
It's under their watch.
How did he know nothing about it? How has this been going on and he knows nothing? It is apparently an independent report. So, as Claire says, we don't know who has instigated that.
But he's sort of setting out his stall already, saying, well, I will sack.
I said, well, why didn't you do it already?
Yeah. I think there's generally been too much talk and too little action everywhere, hasn't there, in our lives recently? We've had a lot of people saying, I'm going to do this, and nothing ever happens.
Yes.
But it is so sad that it's yet another emergency service that's coming under, an absolute veil of criticism, really, that it's an institution that does great work. Look what they did for Grenfell. Look what they do on a daily basis.
We see them as absolute heroes, don't we?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't affect what they... It's the thing. It's one of those strange things. It doesn't affect what they do when they're out on the job. That's the thing. But it's how what's going on underneath.
We see as heroes shouldn't be.
I think that's the world, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really, really, really do.
Meanwhile,
it happens in newsrooms, it happens everywhere.
Oh, it does. It does. In the Sunday Telegraph, Claire, the shock horror of thousands in 12-hour A&E waits every day, I've got to say, sadly, I'm not surprised by this at all.
Yeah, well, there's lots of cause and effect of the reasons why this is actually the case. But the clue for me is in the name. You shouldn't be going to A&E unless you've had an accident or it is an emergency. How you can wait for 12 hours in a hospital, in an A&E reception, if there's nothing really wrong with you? I mean, but this is the absolute...
But it's where else to go? And half the time,
I was just about to come on to that.
You're being sent there.
Yes, you are, because you can't get a GP appointment. We know this. This has been going on and on and on for so long now. The inability for you to be able to see a GP either face-to-face or on the phone or even just get a call. And then you've got the 111. Everyone's told to phone 111. And they're triaged to say, well... default, go to A&E.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Of course,
because no one wants to take responsibility if someone does present with symptoms and then they die.
Of course,
because
they have
the legality of
it. They have all these other services now, which are meant to be alternatives, like urgent care centres. There's one near me by the hospital, actually. But you go to
urgent care centre.
It's an urgent care centre. You don't go to A&E. Go to the urgent care centre, where you've still got to wait hours and hours and hours to see anyone.
I would like to know what these GPs are doing. They want to work shorter hours now, so the situation is going to get even worse. But you can't see a GP. I mean, what are they doing all day long?
But apparently getting very stressed.
They're getting paid over £100,000 a year. They don't want to see anybody.
We also
anymore.
hear that they're leaving in their droves because they feel this job is so stressful.
Well,
so what's going on? We don't understand fully, I think, do we? What's going on inside a GP surgery?
Well, we don't. I mean, I've never seen my GP. I mean, I'm actually having hospital treatment, as I told you before the show at the moment, and I go to Guildford Hospital, but I've never actually seen my GP, even with a situation like that. It's incredible, isn't it? There's no one available.
But again, I don't understand why, in terms of all my diabetes stuff that I have to have done every few months, whereas it was all done at the hospital, and I've got my specialist at the hospital and what have you, but now I have to have half of that done at the GP.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there's not a whole rollout, because the infrastructure for GP practices within the NHS is there. It can operate. There are some GP practices that you can see a GP. Thankfully, I'm one of them. My practice is super. But there's others that just don't seem to operate that way. I think we should have a guideline, serious guideline set out in terms of infrastructure, that if you have your telephone appointments in the morning or you see patients in the afternoon. Now, the GP practices should be in the community. You know, are we gone? Is it gone days now where they don't know the whole family? They don't know...
Yes, that's gone. Family doctor's
it's
gone,
just that, but that's such a shame. Perhaps we should be getting back to that.
Well, you still fill in the forms, don't you? Say, who is your GP? I know what the practice is, but I haven't got a specific
I think
GP.
the answer is that there are too many people and not enough doctors, and it's as simple as that. You know, they're just, you know...
There seem to be a lot of administrators as well, don't there?
Yes, too many administrators.
Right, let's move on to the migrant crisis then. In the Sunday Express there, it's quite a shocking headline that migrants are being housed in homes, in military homes, whilst 2,500 British veterans stay homeless.
That's absolutely it, and that is the story. Hundreds of military homes have been set aside for migrants, while at least 2,500 British veterans don't have a roof over their heads. Obviously, they're running out of hotels, and while troops are on the move, while they're moving around, migrants are being moved into their accommodation. I was in one seaside resort just recently doing an event at a hotel, and the manager of the hotel said to me, there are now 5 hotels in this town that are full of Albanians. So, because it's very tempting, isn't it? When you think seaside resorts, not many people are going there during the winter. So if somebody says to the hotel, look, we'll fill you up with Albanians for...
It's better than being empty.
Yes, better than being empty. It's very, very tempting, isn't it? Although I think on GBNews the other day we saw somebody, didn't we, who has absolutely resisted it. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. Was that in Skegness, I think, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the temptation from their point of view. But you've got to say, when we have got homeless veterans and we're doing nothing for them...
We've got homeless families.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
But
these are military homes.
Military homes.
I gather at least half of them are the ones that they deliberately keep vacant because the military is always moving. So you have to keep accommodation empty because there's always a workforce moving. But not all of the homes. And some of them surely should be prioritising military vets.
Well, lots of people are being turfed out of their... we had a story recently, didn't we, about nurses who are being turfed out of their homes so that migrants can move in there. So it's a huge problem.
We've got to get a grip on this migrant
And once
crisis.
again, everybody's been saying about this crisis, the immigration crisis, what they're going to do about it. You know, first of all, Priti Patel, now...
Suella Braverman.
Yeah, but everybody says something, but nobody actually does anything.
Nothing seems to ever happen.
Because the language used is often very difficult as well for people to comprehend the actual socio-economic, geopolitical actions that have to be taken. You've got one tranche of people who say this is right and this is wrong. And we can't, the difficulty that we have is we shouldn't and we can't other people. You know, we can't do others or whataboutery. We need to deal with what we've got. And whilst it's appalling that veterans that have fought for this country, put their lives on the line, have signed up to do a job and do a job very well, that they cannot be housed. It's ridiculous. That is appalling. but at the cost of something else. That's the real problem.
What about the homeless people in this country who you see, on street corners and outside shops? They have nowhere to go. Wouldn't they love to stay in a hotel?
Well, exactly.
And have some accommodation?
Well, I think we interviewed people just the other day. Was it Blackpool?
Blackpool, you were.
We were interviewing somebody on the street, and meanwhile the hotel behind him is full of migrants.
Yeah.
Whether they were legal or illegal, I don't know. But nevertheless, he was sleeping on the street and he couldn't quite believe
Well,
the
I've worked
irony.
in a few homeless shelters, and a lot of the men, it's predominantly men who are on the street, don't actually... They're too physically or mentally gone to actually want strict accommodation. So what they will do is they will drop in to centres where they will be given help. But the major problem, I think, is families that are in temporary accommodation that have been evicted, and they're the real souls, they're the real people that have to be helped here, on top of everyone else. You know, the homeless people sleeping on the streets are there almost by choice sometimes.
Ooh, I don't know.
They need more help.
They need more help.
I agree with you that a lot of them wouldn't want to have permanent accommodation.
No one wants to be.
Streets, do they?
No, but neither do they engage particularly well with a proper, what we would call proper accommodation. So there need to be specialist centres that allow them to drop in and drop out
and
as they wish.
Which there are.
Which the charities run more than
shelter, and Westminster.
Places with hot soup, hot food and
a shave and clean clothes.
But you've got to take a macro view of all of this and just say we cannot be we can't be dealing with all these migrants whilst we have these problems of British people and particularly you say families.
Yes.
And I'm with you on this saying, well
don't
people who
you
serve
look after
their
your
country.
own first? You look after your own people
Charity
first.
begins at home.
Yeah.
Charity begins at home.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument for that. Anyway, controversial. Let us know what you think. Meanwhile, what could be the biggest story of the day in the Sunday People, Claire? Cormageddon. We've got a curry crisis.
Huge story. I mean, it's obliterating everything else out of the thingy. Curry crisis. I don't know about you. What's your favourite takeaway? What's your favourite takeaway, David? What's your favourite takeaway?
Chicken tikka, I think.
OK, so
chicken tikka would be high on my list.
Yep. Britain's favourite takeaway is, of course, the Indian, and I love a curry as well. But we've got a curry crisis. The cost of living devastate businesses. Now, the people have gone with this because of the curry awards either tonight or tomorrow. And Indian food and Bangladeshi food and Pakistani food, they all need a lot of herbs and spices. So that's why they're concentrating on these types of restaurants.
And the price of that is going up?
By 30%.
God.
So what some owners of the Indian restaurants have tried to do is increase their prices by 15%, but people are turning away because we don't have the money to go out, as we did, and spend money on restaurant food. So there's been a third of Indian restaurants closed nationwide. And that's very, very sad. And what he is saying, this chap here is, curry houses are feeling the heat and may soon close at the rate of one a day, an expert fears. And this is Geoffrey Alley, whose family founded the British Curry Awards, said 3,000 restaurants have closed since 2007. A quarter of all curry restaurants and takeaways.
Well, you see, that's worrying. I do like a curry.
And a curry hasn't it?
I like a balti.
It's become the balti is now the British dish, isn't it?
I love a balti.
Or the tikka masala, I think. Well, the best curries you can get are in Glasgow, I have to say.
Oh, no.
They really are.
Aren't
they really are.
King's Heath in Birmingham.
No.
Oh, that's true. Well, it'll be interesting to see who wins the Curry Award then tonight.
It will.
Yeah, that's something you can get stuck into. Please, GBviews at gbnews.uk. Where do you get the best curry in Britain?
We've got to leave it there for now. David and Claire, thank you both very much indeed.
You.
See you a little bit later on.
Now, the online safety bill is set to be updated to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. The government has confirmed that now. The Culture Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, says the changes will bring it into line with communications that encourage suicide. Of course, they're already illegal, but there's going to be more.
Well, let's talk to the founder of Ripple Suicide Prevention, Alice Hendy, who's extremely passionate about this for your own personal reasons, Alice, which maybe we'll come on to. But do you think this is going to make much of a change, have much of an impact?
I do, actually. And good morning, Anne and Stephen. I really do think this is a welcome move. At the moment, there's criminal sanctions put in place for people that are promoting and encouraging suicide-related activity. self-harm is a huge issue that we are seeing in this country, and it's widespread. So to bring this in line with the sanctions imposed by suicide-related activity online, I think is a good positive step.
And Stephen there alluded to the fact that you feel passionate about this for a very important family reason. So you know the impact this sort of online activity can eventually cause.
Sadly, I do. In November 2020, so it was actually 2 years ago to the day on Friday, we lost my brother Josh to suicide. He was 21 years old. And having gone through his devices, his mobile, his tablet, his laptops, he was looking at some extremely harmful material on the internet, not just to do with self-harm and suicide, but he was even provided with tips, encouragement, and so on from other individuals out there. So to know that this online safety bill is now going to include punishment, really, and justice for those individuals who think it's okay to comment and write those comments online is something that I'm pleased to see. However, the online safety bill itself has taken far too long to come out. I mean, we've seen countless delays, countless revisions. It's seen revisions now under 3 prime ministers. This is an urgent bill, and the longer we leave it, the more lives, unfortunately, are going to be destroyed, and the more families out there are going to feel like mine.
Yeah. Look, I wonder if, something like Ripple, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but sort of if you are looking at, as well as being a place you can go for help, it can trigger, it can pop up automatically, can't it, if someone's looking at something which may be harmful.
Yeah.
Isn't there a need? As we just saw clips of Facebook, you get a mobile phone, you get a laptop, it's got Facebook already installed on it, whether you use it or not. Isn't it time for something like Ripple or some similar service to be pre-installed on every device so that if someone starts to look at something, it's being picked up and they can reach out for help?
Absolutely. And you've pretty much said word for word what I'm saying to social media companies and tech giants across the world, Stephen. So if you fancy being an ambassador there, let me know. Ripple is so important because it doesn't track or monitor any personally identifiable information whatsoever. But once installed, and it's a browser extension, so it can be put on Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and so on. And once installed, it means that if somebody was to conduct a similar search to my brother relating to the topic of self-harm or suicide, Ripple would intercept that search and instead provide that person with a message of hope that things would get better and signpost them to a selection of mental health resources that they can access both now and in the longer term. And to date, it's now had almost 1 million downloads in a year. It's intercepted over 5,000 genuine harmful online searches. And as I said, even though it doesn't collect or monitor any personally identifiable information, we have actually had 24 individuals come to us directly to tell us that Ripple has saved their life.
Wow.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, we'll be happy to do anything we can to support the work that you're doing, because I think it's really important. We've got to leave it there, Alice. We're out of time, but it's really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Yeah, well, it's a brilliant idea, and stuff like that is so important.
And don't forget, you can get in touch with your views if you've got a story to tell on that very subject or anything else today, it being the big day to go out and buy your Christmas tree, apparently. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
We're back in a couple of minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Looking ahead, the UK is looking cloudy and damp in the southeast, but brighter and blustery in the northwest. So let's take a look at the detail now.
Well, southwest England retaining some cloud through the day. 1 or 2 bright spells possible. Cornwall and Devon staying pretty dry, but some rain possible from Dorset eastwards.
And this early rain across southeast England could clear initially before redeveloping later, possibly heavy at times. It'll be mildest here, though, climbing towards 13.
Wales going to have a generally cloudy day, but there'll be some hazy sunshine poking through. It's going to feel a little bit fresher than Saturday.
And there could be some weak sunshine across central England as well, with the thickest cloud continuing to lift. But even where grey skies prevail, it'll remain predominantly dry through today.
And northern parts of England having a dry second half of the weekend. The wind's lighter compared to Saturday, helping it feel less brisk when you step outside.
Scotland, meanwhile, will keep the blustery winds today, with scattered showers pushing into the northwest. These could be heavy at times, accompanied by hail and the odd rumble of thunder.
Moving on to Northern Ireland, blustery showers, but also some sunny spells. Across the north of the area, temperatures slightly down compared to Saturday, at highs of about 10 Celsius.
And the showers will feed into Wales and southeast England later, whilst the rain in the southeast gradually clears. And that's your weather today. The Prime Minister faces rebellion as new claims of Tory bullying emerge.
Good morning to you. 7 o'clock, Sunday the 27th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK, on your TV, on your radio and online. Wherever you are, you can take us with you. Here are the top stories this morning.
Well, a new survey puts the Labour Party 18 points ahead of the Tories as Rishi Sunak attempts to quell a growing rebellion from within his own cabinet.
The Tory party is facing fresh claims of bullying and inappropriate behaviour amid accusations that MPs physically manhandled House of Commons staff. It comes as civil servants reportedly prepare to submit new complaints against the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab.
World Cup fever continues as we head into the second week of the tournament. We'll look ahead to all the big matches that you may not want to miss.
You may not. And with just under, well, it's exactly 4 weeks to go until Christmas, experts are telling us that today is the best time to buy your tree and get the pick of the crop. We'll bring you tips and tricks to keep it in top condition.
Water it. You've got to water your tree.
Well, you say 2 litres a day, but that sounds a bit much.
That's what they drink. Yeah. You have to cut an inch off the bottom and 2 litres a day. I know, it's a lot.
Is that what you're doing? We've got lots of news and views coming in from you as well about how to spend Christmas, particularly if you've got a birthday anywhere near Christmas. And we've had lots of people with Christmas Day birthdays. And how do you cope with that?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? If that involves you or you want to talk about anything at all, drop us an email, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
And you've been sending us pictures as well, so thank you for those. We'll look through those in a few minutes. Right now to the top story, and of course, it's Tory, I don't know, what is it, crisis? Is it time to use that word, crisis? Because rebellion continues to grow within the Conservative Party as increasing number of MPs support overturning a ban on onshore wind farms, including members of the Cabinet. The Levelling Up Secretary, Michael Gove, is apparently the latest to back the rebellion. And you've got Business Secretary Grant Shapps and the former Prime Minister, of course, Boris Johnson, and also Liz Truss, supporting a change. Basically, they're rebelling too. And this all comes as a new poll puts Labour 18 points ahead of the Tories, a margin that would, if there were a general election, give Keir Starmer a landslide.
Well, let's talk to the political editor of the Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, Nigel Nelson. Nigel, good to see you this morning. What do you make of all of this? Because it seems to be that the party, whatever is going on now, whatever the issue, the party just seems to be so split that it's imploding.
Yeah, I think that this is the real problem for the Conservative Party, probably because they've been in power for so long. And so what then happens is it breaks up into different kind of factions. And the idea of putting Rishi Sunak in after Liz Truss was to unite the party so they could head off for the general election in fine fettle. This is clearly not happening. And I think that there are a number of problems here. One is that there is a faction of the party who quite simply would like Boris Johnson back. You then get Liz Truss and the disaster of the mini-budget, and they realise that handing over the decision to the Tory membership turned out to be a huge mistake. We get the third Prime Minister in as many months, and he wasn't elected by anybody, so he has absolutely no mandate whatsoever. What is then encourages dissent within the party and the kind of rebellions that you're seeing at the moment. I mean, it doesn't seem like Rishi Sunak has got any bounce whatsoever from being a new Prime Minister. Normally, when these things happen, it begins to look like a new government, and the electorate are thinking, "Hey, this is great. We've got a new lot in power now." This hasn't happened, and as you mentioned, the polls, the independent poll puts Labour 18 points ahead. The GBNews People's poll put Labour 20 points ahead. Now, if that was translated into seats, it would give Labour 196 overall majority, and the Tories would be down to a rump of 131 seats.
It makes you wonder, though, what is going to happen next? I mean, is this government just going to trudge on for the next year and a half or so with this sort of turmoil happening and people complaining that all it is doom and gloom from them? Are they just going to trudge on? Because they can't really afford to do anything dramatic like fire another Prime Minister, can they?
No, I don't think they can. I mean, but it doesn't stop them talking about it. I mean, the big electoral test that comes up will be the local elections in May. And what some Tory MPs are talking about is that if that turns out to be a disaster, let's try and bring Boris Johnson back again. Now, I think that is a possibility, but really unlikely. I mean, it would be absolutely crazy to have another change of Prime Minister. And I can't see, if they did try that, you could avoid a general election. And as we've seen from the polls, in a general election, the Conservative Party would be virtually wiped out. So they're not going to do that. So, Anne, I think that your expression, trudge on and hope for the best, is about right.
What could trigger a general election? I mean, obviously, the Labour Party are calling for one, as is every opposition party. Are we going to hit a point? Is there the possibility of hitting a point where the government is just going to be unable to get anything done, and so an election is going to be inevitable?
Yes, I mean, I think that really the only way an election could be triggered is there has to be a vote of no confidence in the government. And every Tory MP knows that to go down that route would be electoral suicide. So it's difficult to see them actually doing that. But it is a possibility. It depends on what events come up. I mean, the whole issue over planning and building new houses has been a running sore in the Tory party for some time. But it's now come to a head. Here we have a new Prime Minister with 50 Tory MPs threatening to rebel against his proposals. And what then could happen is that's when your vote of no confidence could come in. But to go that route means that with the polls as they are, the Conservatives would have absolutely no chance of success. The best hope that Rishi Sunak has got is that the nation will feel a bit better over the next 2 years, and we don't have to call an election till January 2025. So he'll be hoping that by that time he's been able to turn things around. Doesn't look very likely at the moment, but then if a week's a long time in politics, then 2 years is a millennium.
How long do you think Dominic Raab is going to last now? There are rumours in today's papers that there are more complaints of bullying that are going to be submitted.
Yeah, I think that depends on the investigation. That Dominic Raab has denied all the allegations, but there is obviously other people are coming forward. Now, if that investigation finds that he is guilty of bullying, then there's no question he'll have to resign. But there is an investigation going on. I think it would probably be wrong to prejudge that process until we know the outcome.
What are we to make of what the Labour Party is doing in all of this? As you say, 20 points ahead in the GBNews poll, the People's poll. Are we at a point where they're really sufficiently sort of pinching or moving into traditional Tory territory to have some sense of security?
Well, there is an element of that. I mean, I think that one thing that's quite interesting about our two sort of main political leaders is how alike they are. Both Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak are incredibly cautious. But we've seen Keir Starmer last week talk quite tough on immigration. That this morning he's saying that he would not support any kind of Swiss-style deal with Europe that would involve free movement. He's ruled that out. So he's sending the message that, look, whatever I might have said in the past, Brexit is totally safe in my hands. So yes, I think that the Labour Party are moving on to Tory territory. And the real question will come down to, I think that because there isn't this huge ideological divide between the Tories and Labour as there was, say, under Jeremy Corbyn, the question, if you're looking at the two leaders, is which one is the most competent? And what Keir Starmer is going for is the competence vote.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Nigel, good to talk to you as always. Thank you very much indeed. Would love your thoughts on that. It just seems a very strange situation, doesn't it? gbviews@gbnews.uk.
It really does.
Alan says, I've been a Tory voter all my life. I've now joined the Reform Party along with many of my friends. The Conservative Party, and no longer Conservative, should wake up and smell the coffee.
Jay says the Conservatives are finished. They're broken. No forward thinking at all. It's all daily doom and gloom with them now. It's certainly how it feels, doesn't it? And we've got to try and fight the gloom, particularly at this time of year. It's exactly 4 weeks till Christmas Day.
So, how better to fight the gloom than getting your Christmas trees up? Today is the day to do it, apparently.
Yeah. Today's the day to go out and get your tree. You were slightly ahead of the mark. You went to put it yesterday, but it's up already with all its beautiful decorations.
All its glory. So today is the day if you want to make it last and make the most of it. So this is what you've been sending us today. This is from Ollie. And this is my Christmas tree angel. She is 50 years old this year.
Oh, that's smashing. And there she is on top of the tree. That's lovely. It is important what you put on the top of a tree, isn't it? Yeah. And sometimes it's the thing that is very special to you, that's nostalgic. And Brian and Lynn Heel in Cape Town say, here's our tree. We love Christmas and all the festive thrill. That's a very neat one as well. That's very beautiful.
Very, very neat.
What's there on top of that? That's a fairy.
That's an angel.
An angel or a fairy, yeah. Lovely. Love that. Very multicoloured.
Yes, very nice. Nikki says, good morning, Stephen and Anne. Merry Christmas from Dartmouth.
Oh, that's
lovely.
gorgeous as well. And you go even to the point of having those snowmen indoors. Is that a snowman and a penguin?
No, two snowmen.
Is it? Oh, yes, no, I thought it was a penguin. Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely fabulous tree, though.
Very, very nice.
If you can beat those trees...
Well,
take a pic.
Linda says, to give you both a giggle, I've had my tree and room decks up since mid-October. There's so much doom and gloom around. I like the magic of Christmas, so I needed some sparkle in the home, and it worked. Had so many great comments as well as giggles about putting everything up so early. Oh, and Tracy says, we're having Christmas with our 2 children and their partners, which is nice, because your family Christmas is nice, and we've just found out we're going to be grandparents.
Oh,
so it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, that'll be lovely. Sarah says, I'm a Christmas Day baby. I've been used to joint presents and forgotten cards over the years, but I always insist on not cooking that day, and I always get a day off from work, and that's my bonus.
Yeah.
Really interesting how you cope with it if it's Christmas on your birthday, or birthday on your Christmas.
Mick says our daughter was born on the 21st of December, and we used to give her a summer barbecue for her and her friends, plus a summer present.
Yeah.
She loved it.
You've got to
See, that's a nice idea, because she'd still get a present on her actual birthday.
Yes,
But,
well, that's the
no,
trouble.
You've got a summer party.
You've got to figure out a way. Sue from Oldham, hi Sue, had a lovely way of doing it. She said, my dad was a Christmas Day birthday and called Noel. We had a Christmas morning with toys and gifts, etc., and lunch was early at about 1 p.m. And then after lunch, it was Dad's birthday, and he got gifts and birthday tea with birthday cake. As an adult, I was then horrified that I had to wait till late afternoon for my dinner, and even now, 38 years after he's passed away, I still struggle with Christmas Day afternoon.
It'll still be Dad's
It's a nice way of doing
birthday.
it. Yes, of course it will. It'll always be Dad's birthday.
But I like that, actually. I think that's a really good idea.
Mm.
It's a good way of splitting it.
Splitting it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, keep your thoughts coming through. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
I tell you what, we've got one. Well, we've got one from, and I think this is so important because there may well be tips that everybody else has got to make things better. Archie, morning Archie, says, all this talk of Christmas means nothing to me. I live alone. It's just another day for me, as I have no family. I don't know what I'd do without my cat.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But I suppose make it a special day with you and your cat. Do you know, I've got...
I'll tell you what you've got to do, and I'll tell you that it's when I've been working on Christmas days and when I was living on my own and away from all the family are all up north and things, and so you do end up Christmas days just a work day, and you've got to really try to make just a little bit of an effort to do something.
Yeah.
But it is
difficult. If you've got any tips for Archie and anyone else watching at the moment, and I know there are probably lots of people watching who think, oh, Christmas Day, just another day, or it's a day when you remember lost friends and lost family. Is there a way that you can work at making it just a little bit more special for you? And I know there are lots of charities who say, come and have Christmas lunch with us or whatever. Not everybody wants to do that either. So is there just a way of making it a little bit different and a little bit special?
I think that's where television comes in.
Yes,
particularly.
Television is a great friend.
Because, you know, because that is literally all. There aren't many people watching on Christmas Day on a lot of stuff, and just to feel
you have your telly
involved.
On, don't you?
No.
Oh gosh, we've always had the telly on. Whether we're all talking or doing other things, the television is always on. Oh.
No, for the Queen's speech, King's speech this year goes on at 3 o'clock. Apart from that, no.
Ooh.
No telly.
When do you watch your James Bond movie?
Oh no, not over
When do you
Christmas.
watch your escape movie? What's the Great Escape? That's always on at Christmas.
No, don't watch telly over Christmas.
Christmas telly is brilliant.
No, it's time for sitting around talking to the family,
No,
playing
you can still do that, but you have it on in the background.
playing card games and all that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, but we do all that, but we still have the telly on.
Oh no.
Okay, how do you spend Christmas Day when it comes to the telly? I hope you're going to be watching.
Well, anyway, let's know. It is 16 minutes past 7. Let's bring you up to date with some of the key stories today. And police have launched a murder investigation into the fatal stabbing of 2 16-year-old boys in south-east London. It happened yesterday, a mile apart between Abbey Wood and Thamesmead. Detectives trying to determine whether they're linked.
And the government says the online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. It says the changes were influenced by Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her life in 2017 after looking at suicide and self-harm content online. Now, this new offence would target the online material that manipulates the vulnerable, making it illegal to do that.
The Prince and Princess of Wales have paid tribute to the rugby union great Doddy Weir, who died yesterday at the age of 52. They said former Scotland international was a hero and an inspiration. He'd suffered from motor neuron disease, but used his profile to raise awareness of the condition and raise funds.
Now, as well as being exactly 4 weeks till Christmas Day, it is, of course, 1 week since the start of the World Cup in Qatar, with the competition already packed with surprises and upsets.
Yes, yesterday Lionel Messi and Enzo Fernandez kept Argentina in the tournament. France became the first team to make it to the final 16 as well.
And there have been certain decisions that haven't necessarily gone down very well with fans. But alcohol has not been sold to fans at the World Cup's 8 stadiums after FIFA changed its policy 2 days before the start of the tournament.
And of course, a lot of people saying, well, how can you go to a match without a drink? Aha. But that is actually, see, you're managing, if you're over there, you're managing, aren't you? Let's talk to alcohol-free coach and founder of Just the Tonic Coaching, Sandra Parker. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. I think a lot of the problem is with this sort of thing, and I speak as someone who gave up drinking 17 years ago, is that you have so much in your mindset that says, well, if I'm going to go somewhere, that you've got to have a drink with that. Like it used to be, if you're going to go to the pub, well, you've got to have a cigarette. So it's changing that sort of set code in your brain, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I guess what I would say is that the change in the alcohol sales in the World Cup, you can still have a drink in the fan zone beforehand and you can have a drink afterwards. But when you're actually in the stadium itself, which, you know, should be really exciting for a lot of people, it's a live event, you don't know what's going to happen, you want to really remember it. So it's interesting that we get upset that we can't actually drink alcohol, which actually dulls your senses. And surely we can still enjoy it and have a drink afterwards.
Well, that's it. But as Stephen said, there's a mindset that a lot of people have, and I guess we're particularly famous for it in Britain, that you can't enjoy yourself without a drink.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients struggle with that because it's not only allowable to drink, it's also expected, unlike, say, for example, like cigarettes. So we have to justify not drinking. And as a culture, you know, alcohol has just crept into our life so much that every event, whether it's a party, a celebration, a commiseration, a connection, we seem to think that we have to have alcohol. And I guess what I would say is a sporting event is actually more exciting if you're fully present. So not dulling your senses with alcohol will actually make it more enjoyable.
You see, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, effectively what you're saying is it's not if you decide... I mean, obviously this is being enforced here, so, you know, people haven't got a choice. However, ordinarily, it's not even just making your own decision not to have a drink. It's about other people letting you not have a drink.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I spend a bit of time coaching my clients on is stage one is they get comfortable themselves with not having a drink. And then we spend quite a lot of time navigating like how to tell other people's reaction, other people wanting you to keep on drinking. So, I mean, I guess what I would say in the case of the World Cup is that people can still drink. It's just that they can't drink when they're actually in the stadium.
But that's actually having an effect on them that they maybe have never done themselves, which means that they are going for a long period without drink. They're not continuously drinking, as you would probably do if you were going along to a football match in Britain. You would start, you'd have your pre-match drinks, you'd go in, you'd drink while you were watching, and then you'd drink afterwards as well, which is a lot of hours of constant drinking. At least in Qatar, they're having to stop at some point for quite a while.
Yeah, and they can actually drink. I think the fan zones selling alcohol for about 19 hours out of 24. So they can
That's quite a lot. Got to sleep as well, though, haven't you?
But I think what I would say is I work with a lot of people who, whether it's a sporting event or a Christmas party, for example, and when they wake up the next day, they're trying to piece together the memories. And I think if you spent a lot of money going to the World Cup, you're probably going to want to remember it afterwards, right? You're there cheering your team on, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, being able to watch it without alcohol dulling your senses so that you can actually get really excited.
But people don't think it dulls their senses, they think it enhances their enjoyment, don't they?
It's a very sneaky drug, I guess is what I would say. I mean, there's a reason why there's very little we can drink and be allowed to drive, because we know that it does dull our senses. We also know it's a depressant. So being fully aware and really taking in the whole atmosphere, I would say, yes, it's a change and it can be challenging, but I would also say it's actually more exciting.
How much of an impact do you think it's had that there are now so many alcohol-free beers, alcohol-free wine, champagnes, gin? I mean, there's all sorts now. Guinness alcohol-free tastes as good as the real thing. How important is that? Not just for people, I mean, people like me, to be able to go to the pub and actually have a drink, but to be able to not stand out the same, because there's something very difficult about, say, going to the pub or even going to a Christmas party or what have you, and just be sat there drinking fizzy water or whatever it might be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that people love about that is they still feel part of things. So it's nice to be able to go to an event, whether it's like a wedding or just to go and meet your friends in the pub, and to have an adult drink. You know, most people don't want to go out at night and have orange juice or have fizzy water. So what a lot of my clients say is that when they're having an alcohol-free beer, they feel like they're part of the crowd. You know, it looks the same. And there's something really important about in the early days. I'm not sure what your experience was, but a lot of people feel self-conscious. So if you have a beer that's alcohol-free, and you don't have to immediately tell everyone you're not drinking.
I stayed away from the pubs and everything. I think for years, I just didn't go. But now I've got to the point where you sort of think, well, actually, it's nice to go to the pub. I always liked the pub. So it's nice to go to the pub and have a, you know, and there's like a selection of alcohol-free stuff. So you're not even just stuck to one bad-tasting drink. I mean, they taste pretty much like the real thing. You do feel part of it.
Yeah, in your coaching, when do you teach people that phrase to say when people are asking, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? I'll get this round or something, and you have to say, no, I'm not having any alcohol, and they say, oh, why? Oh, go on. Is there a phrase that you can come back at them with that works?
There's a couple of things I teach them. So one is to get comfortable themselves. So if people have had a mindset shift so that they feel good about themselves, and they're enjoying the event and they're enjoying chatting to people, I teach them that it will feel a bit uncomfortable in the beginning. But one, feel comfortable with yourself. Two, never judge what anyone else is drinking. So once your friends or your colleagues know that you're actually going to be quite good fun and you don't have a problem with other people drinking, you're not going to preach at them, you're not going to judge them, that's usually like the two things that put your friends at ease and make it a lot easier for you to socialise with them. Actually enjoy it more, because you can be the friend that makes sure everyone gets home, you can be the friend that makes sure no one leaves their phone behind, and you're going to remember the conversation.
Yeah, and you're the friend who doesn't have a hangover the next morning, which is always...
Did you have a phrase that you used back at people?
No.
They tried to push it?
No, but I remember people just buying, when I was at events or things, people just literally, someone bought me like a triple vodka and Coke or something. And it was like, I said, no, I don't drink. No, I bought you this. You will have this drink. No.
It's tough, yeah. I mean,
it's hard work.
Yeah, I guess in terms of a phrase, what you could say is, I'll have X. You know, I'll have like Heineken Zero, or I'll have.
Say
like,
what you will have.
Yes, yeah.
At least they say, with the fact that the options are there now makes it more acceptable, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it just makes people feel like they're part of it, which is fantastic.
It's quite trendy nowadays to ask for alcohol-free gin, isn't it?
Oh, it's very good. I
just wish they'd work on alcohol-free Bacardi.
It'll be coming.
Somebody work on that.
It'll be coming. Sandra, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
No, I mean, I just think it's really important to be able to just do what works for you on these sort of things.
Yeah, but people aren't... I think maybe it's becoming more acceptable not to drink. Isn't it crazy that we live in a world where we have to fight for the acceptability not to drink?
Yeah.
But, because inevitably you used to say, no, I'm not drinking at the moment or something. They'd say, oh, why? Have you got a problem?
Yeah, yeah. I think Sandra's absolutely right not to judge people who are having a drink as well.
Because they're scared you're going to make them look bad.
It's just when it gets to a certain point in the evening and suddenly dawns on you that everybody else is drunk.
Yes.
And you sort of think, I think maybe it's time I went home now.
That's something you do notice when you're not drinking, isn't it? You notice the alcoholic effect on others.
Oh, yeah, terrible.
Awful. No.
Anyway, look, don't go anywhere. Lots more coming up for you in a few minutes after the... I won't tell you about the weather. We'll tell you about the weather in about 20 minutes.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News. Morning, it is exactly 7:30. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with me and her.
Yeah, that's right. Or me and him.
Yeah.
Now, the Welsh Government has launched a scheme to give every household in Wales a tree, free of charge.
Yes, it's called My Tree, Our Forest, and it aims to help tackle climate change as well as improving the nation's mental health.
It's a brilliant idea. GB News' Jeff Moody went to Cardiff to find out more.
A sunny autumn day in Cardiff, and the Great Tree Giveaway is going strong. There's 300,000 trees up for grabs, available from 50 collection hubs up and down the country. Sophie Bolton has been handing out trees all day. She says take-up has been high.
I think it's a really great idea that everyone can do their bit to help the environment, to help nature. So all the trees are sort of native trees to Wales, and they're all beneficial to the environment, they're beneficial to birds, to insects. The oak tree I just read has got over 300 different species can be supported by an oak tree, which is amazing. But even the smaller trees, they just do so much for our landscape and for our environment.
And that's the idea. So that Wales can become carbon neutral by 2050, Experts have calculated the country needs to plant 86 million trees. This scheme is a start, and out of small acorns do oak trees grow. There are 10 different species of tree on offer here, from native trees to broadleaf trees, from maples to rowans, right up to the mighty oak. And the people here will match your garden to the perfect tree. The scheme is run by Wales's Woodland Trust. Volunteers are sharing their advice and helping the public choose the right tree for the right spot. Trees will be given out on a first-come, first-served basis from any of the 50 hubs. People can either order one online or come out in person.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, who would not do it? We've lost 3 ashes in the last year with ash dieback, so we've got a little bit of space to put something else in. And why not?
Organisers say the My Tree Our Forest initiative is a simple and cost-effective way of helping the environment. There are no plans as yet to roll the scheme out across the rest of the UK, but the Welsh Government hopes if the scheme goes well, other nations will follow suit. Jeff Moody, GB News.
Oh, I think that's a
Brilliant
love trees.
idea. Yeah.
I've got a real affinity for trees. I'm a tree hugger.
Yeah, me too. I love to have trees. I've got a very small garden, but I've got loads of trees. And we were just talking about whether you could get a Christmas tree with roots, and I could pot it in an outdoor, I've got a huge outdoor pot in the garden. And I thought I could put an outdoor, because I'd love to have a tree decorated outdoors. But most of the year you wouldn't need it to be...
Just leave it as a tree.
Yeah. But nearer Christmas, you could move it nearer the windows so you could see it from the windows of the house, and then decorate it with outdoor lights.
Be nice.
I think I might do that as a little project.
Nice. Or can you just plant a cut tree? Will it re-root?
I think there's a risk that it won't.
Don't know. If you're a gardening expert. Now, Trev, morning Trev, when it comes to Christmas trees, says they should be put up 12 days before and taken down 12 days after.
Oh, there's a stickler for rules.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you at all, I think.
No.
Put it up I'm really upset that I haven't got mine up yet, but I'll get it up. But I'll leave it a good couple of months later.
You see, I would have agreed with Trev not that many years ago, but I've changed my tune, Trev, to be honest.
Yeah, Peter says, in my religion, we don't celebrate Christmas, but the trees do look good. I can't see the point, though, of going to all the trouble and stress, because at the end, they all have to be taken down anyway.
Oh,
it makes the place, it makes the home feel special and homely and nice.
Teresa, morning Teresa, says, I'm not having Christmas this year. Although I love Christmas, I hate buying presents. I'm not mean, just like to buy something different apart from the usual, and I have an elderly family who have everything and want nothing, and a grown-up son who's unmarried, so buys whatever he wants anyway. And the anxiety it causes spoils Christmas for me. It is difficult. I mean...
To get the person who's got everything, I mean, there are lots of little things you can think of, but you could sponsor an animal with the RSPCA, or you could sponsor a polar bear in the North Pole or whatever. There are lots of things like that you can do, that you get a lovely
you get an envelope and things,
yeah, you do. And you have actually... What you've done, basically, is just donated to... a wildlife charity on their behalf, but it's a rather nice thing to do and doesn't cost a lot of money at all.
No, and there's nice... I don't know if it's UNICEF. Is it UNICEF? My mum did when she retired from teaching, and it was, you could buy school books for kids in Africa and all that sort of thing. And it's just a nice thing to do.
There's another scheme that I think...
In fact, I bought my mother a donkey last year.
Really?
Was it the year before? Might be the year
but
before.
Did you sponsored a donkey?
Yeah, but basically you buy her a donkey from the donkey sanctuary for a year, sort of thing. So she technically...
And it's lovely because they often send you pictures and things as well.
They do.
Yeah. Or you can sponsor a child, somewhere in the third world or something. You can do those and you get a little certificate, and it means you've thought of the person, but you've done something really brilliant on their behalf.
Yeah, try that, Teresa. It's stress-free and all for a good cause, whichever cause you decide to choose. Anyway, look, after the break, we're going to take you through the papers with Diddy David Hamilton and Claire Moulton.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
20 to 8, good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
It is indeed. Time to go through the papers again. Joining us this morning is radio legend David Hamilton and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. And it's lovely to see you both. We went through the headlines last time. I don't think we need to this time. Should we get straight into the papers?
Yes, let's. With The Sun on Sunday, David, and Prince Andrew furious.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes, he's beside himself.
Oh, wow.
His favourite place to be.
Well, yes.
It is the latest blow for Prince Andrew. His bodyguards are being axed. Apparently, they've been costing us £3 million a year. What happens is that he is escorted by armed police guards every time he leaves Windsor Castle. After being stripped of his royal duties, he is now no longer entitled to a bodyguard. And one Labour MP has put the boot in, and he said he doesn't seem to realise that he's in disgrace and people don't want to hear from him anymore, especially with his begging bowl.
They've got a point, though, haven't
He doesn't seem to realise he's in disgrace,
No, I don't think he does.
No. But he's not been stripped from his HRH title, though, the way Diana was, and her police protection officers were removed. Yeah. Some say at the cost of her life. But, you know, Prince Andrew, who
But she was married into the... You can lose your HRH if you're married in.
Yeah,
you can't really
if
lose
you're born. So was it King
full-time.
Charles that said that he should be stripped, or did he strip him of the police protection?
It was the Queen.
It was the Queen?
It was the Queen, yeah.
So why is Andrew
decided
making a
quite
big
a while
fuss of
ago.
it then?
Well, I suppose you do. I mean, you could argue that he needs his bodyguards even more than usual now at the moment, doesn't he? But because nobody likes him particularly.
Should stay at home.
But yes, I think he needs to learn to live a much more private life, doesn't he?
Yeah. What about I'm a Celeb in the Sunday Mirror, Claire?
Well, I've been watching it and I love it. And I can't believe we've got an MP in there, but we've discussed that before. And indeed, he's
Not
down
for the
now.
first time, though.
Well, no, but I don't think any of the mothers were actually MPs, live MPs when they were in. It was Nadine Dorries.
Nadine Dorries was. Yeah.
But he's had the whip removed, obviously, before he arrived in Matt Hancock. But the star of the show for me is Jill Scott. She is one fantastic woman. She's very witty. She's very quick. She's very intelligent. She's a grafter. She's not afraid of hard work.
She's a footballer, is she?
She's ex-Lioness.
Right.
She's now retired. And she's wonderful. And what the press are saying is, because of her attributes that she has shown in the jungle camp, she is actually a marketing diamond now.
She absolutely is.
Everyone will want a piece of her.
I mean, the strength of women's football.
And there's not that much of her to get a piece of.
Somebody who can commentate and talk about sport with real personality. She is set to have a really good media
Well, it did no harm to Harry Redknapp, did he? Did it?
No.
He did very well out of it.
No.
I must say, I don't actually watch it. It's not really my cup of tea.
No, I've never seen
And
it.
I was just thinking, what was Matt Hancock doing in there? I mean, he's not a celebrity, is he? He's a
But
politician.
he wants to be.
He should remember the old age that politics is show business for ugly people.
That's a very good point.
So he's going
I've
the
not
wrong
heard
way
it
round.
before, but I rather like it.
Yeah. But he has done, worryingly, he's actually done particularly well. He's still in the final. There's a young Hollyoaks actor, aged 23, Owen, and then Jill and Matt Hancock under, because Sarah Phillips' husband, Mike Tyndall, left
now,
yesterday, last night, after the funniest show that part of the show they actually do. But Jill Scott, legend.
Oh, well.
I would watch it if Ant and Dec actually did a trial.
That gets me as well.
They did it before, years ago.
You know, that would make me watch it.
It annoys me they stand on the sidelines just laughing at everybody else.
What a gig, eh?
Yeah, I know.
They are very good.
Millions of pounds to get paid for that.
Yeah.
David, in the
Yes.
Sunday People, the story which explains why over the years you had so little success with the ladies.
Yes, exactly. Well, very pertinent that you should say that. Apparently, a survey tells us that women are turned on by men with big ears. There's one lady from St Albans who says big ears are more manly. I find them a big turn on, and men with big ears are definitely better in bed. She said, I dated a guy with small ears, and he was a big disappointment.
Oh, well, there you go.
There's nothing you can say to that except that it's in the Sunday People.
Well, the only thing I can say is that I've got the smallest ears in the world.
You've got very small ears.
What does that tell you?
But you've been happily married for decades.
I've heard about big feet, but I've never heard about big ears. But this must be great news for Prince Charles and also for Gary Lineker, who up until now everybody thought it was his money that was the attraction.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Funny
go.
that.
It's all down to the ears.
No, I think it's
all
more down to the bank balance.
So, in the moving swiftly on,
Yes.
David. In the Sunday Times, Nicola Sturgeon, her time is up, according to the paper.
Yeah, well, we don't buy papers, I don't think, now to get the news. We buy them for opinion pieces. And Alex Massey is a terrific journalist. And his headline is, whisper it quietly, Sturgeon's time is up. Worryingly, we do have to whisper things like this because the vitriol from the nationalists is unbelievable. If anybody actually comes out and criticises the cabal of the SNP and Nicola Sturgeon's head at Bute House, they would say that they have won numerous elections and they have got the majority for independence. But it is not actually the case. The problem with Scotland is there's not enough people turning up to vote, right? So they've got in, they say, with the majority, but with 30 to 40% of the electorate actually voting. Well, the SNPs are in charge at the... Again, it's democracy. You can't argue against democracy.
That's the people's fault.
That is the people, and that's what I've just said. But, however, the SNP actually are now in, they're in a coalition with the Green Party. That's why they're there. And with the Supreme Court judgment that was just released on Monday or Tuesday of this week, apparently the minute the Lord Justice said it was a unanimous vote, everybody within the SNP realised that it just wasn't going to happen. And of course, that was whether or not it was legal for them to take another referendum vote in October 2023. So that's put the kibosh on that at the moment, right? So if basically the SNP's point is independence, there is evidence to suggest that the independent movement is waning in Scotland at the moment. What then is left? Okay, who then, where politically is it going to go?
Where do you go?
And for me, the films like Braveheart, that's like the crown for Scottish history for me. It's a parody, but it's a great film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a parody. But, to get this independence, how on earth are they going to do it? So it'd be interesting to see what Nicola's going to come out with now. And I'll tell you, she's actually said it's going to be Plan C. Plan C is to have the general election as a de facto referendum on independence. And it's crucial that everybody goes out.
Well, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? If it, because it may well kill it dead.
It might very well, Stephen, but unfortunately it's not legitimate, because in order to have a de facto referendum, you have to have both sides in agreement politically in terms of power. So Westminster would have to agree that it would be used for that. As well as Holyrood trying to push it.
Westminster's already said no, haven't they?
But it wouldn't be a referendum. She's not saying it would actually be a legally binding referendum in that sense. She's just saying that the argument would be, if you say we're having this as an independence referendum election, then if they get more than 50%, they've got a much clearer message to take to Westminster.
Yeah, of course, that's what she would say, but it would just prolong it, because she was elected in 2014 after Alex Salmond to move in as the first Scottish minister and the first female, the longest-serving female minister. I mean, that's something in itself. However, I don't think the appetite is there in Scotland. I've got friends, all my family are still there. They're not in support of it. And to use it, to linchpin it onto Brexit, I think is damaging, severely damaging.
And don't you think, I mean, we've been talking about this and having views from everybody watching, and the overwhelming opinion, at least coming in from people watching, is that we've got bigger things to think about at the moment, like just how to pay our next energy bill. Just shut up about referendums.
But she hasn't, has she?
No, but she's beginning to look tired on it.
I think independence for Scotland would be the worst thing that could happen financially for Scotland.
She's beginning to make the issue tiresome.
Yeah, banging on about
People
the same old thing.
People are just fed up with it, yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Look, on that note, we've got to leave it.
But you'll be back.
You will be back with more cheery things.
Yes.
Noses next hour, David.
Big noses.
Big noses.
Please.
Who knows? As it were.
Who knows? No pun intended.
No pun intended. Thank you both very much indeed. Get out.
We bring you up to date with what's going on today at 7:49.
The Prime Minister's net zero advisor says he won't run for Parliament again. Tory MP Chris Skidmore has announced he'll step down at the next election. He's the 9th Tory member to make that notification, following the Levelling Up Minister announcing she wouldn't stand again.
The government says the online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. It says the changes were influenced by Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her life in 2017 after looking at suicide and self-harm content online. And this new offence would target online material that manipulates the vulnerable, making it illegal.
And the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has rejected a Swiss-style deal with the EU, vowing he won't cross the red line of bringing back freedom of movement. Sir Keir told the Mail on Sunday a Swiss deal simply wouldn't work.
And the former Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has reached tonight's final of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He joined other finalists, ex-England footballer Jill Scott and Hollyoaks actor Owen Warner, for a final supper together and reflecting on their time in the jungle. Mike Tindall was booted out last night. Hasn't he done well? That's all I can say, Matt Hancock, unexpectedly.
Who used to say
Hasn't he done well? Larry
Is that
Grayson?
Bruce?
Bruce, right, yeah.
Now, Stephanie Tetchy's got all our showbiz news for us this morning, and it's not anything cheery, sadly, this morning.
Oh, she famously sang that she wants to live forever, but unfortunately, Irene Cara passed away from fame. So she was the actress who played Coco Hernandez. Yes. And literally, she was an icon both on and off-screen, and she inspired countless celebrities, which has been evident through the tributes that have been paid to her.
She died of?
So the cause of her death hasn't been announced yet.
How old was she?
She was 63 years old, and unfortunately, what's been really sad about this story, on Friday, a hoax came out saying that she had died, which forced her agent to come out and say, no, she hasn't passed away. But within the space of 12 hours, she's come out now and said she did die. So many of her fans have been in, like, disbelief because they were like, on Friday, you said she hadn't passed away, and now she has passed away. But it hasn't been confirmed what she did die of. But one thing we can say for sure, she was a showbiz legend.
She was a legend, yeah.
She had been performing since the age of 5 when she was in her dad's Mambo band on television. But it was really flash dance. What a feeling. Like, everyone remembers that. And the tributes, her agent has said she was a beautifully gifted soul whose legacy will live forever through music and film. And, you know, Loose Women, Denise Rolfe says that she burst into tears as soon as she heard Fame being played on the radio.
It's very, I don't know, it takes you right back, doesn't it, in those days?
So it's not just the fact, I mean, she had an amazing voice, but you also think of, you know, I mean, it was just an iconic era.
Well, she encapsulated that sort of dance movement. Dance and
I mean, the flash dance.
Oh, my gosh.
Amazing.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that ever since. And that performance, it was literally
But we haven't heard anything of her in recent years. We don't know what sort of a life she's lived.
That's the thing with these stars. It's like, it's not until they pass away then they come back into the public's periphery. But she was doing a lot of work with theatres. She was producing a lot of music. So she was doing a lot of work behind the scenes, but one of the things, she's inspired a lot of careers out there in showbiz. So the industry has lost one of its greats.
Well, that really is a shame, because just to hear her and see those pictures there takes you right back to those days. It was such a huge movement all over the world, wasn't it? This song, not song and dance in the old way, but this very, very new sort of dance thing. It was the first time movies really featured dance, I think.
And, you know, she was one of the most successful singers of the 80s, and, you know, for that role and Fame, she got she got nominated for a Golden Globe, and then also when she went to Flashdance, she had an Oscar and 2 Grammys for that.
But I mean, Fame itself inspired generations.
It's one of those, you know, it's one of those movies that it goes from generation to generation, and everyone, even youngsters, now know about Fame. It was iconic.
I'm going to make you sweat.
Oh, God, it was the time of all the leotards, wasn't it? The ankle warmers, or whatever they called, leg warmers.
Classic.
It really was
that has been really sad news for the showbiz industry overnight.
Yeah, it has been.
You got your Christmas tree up yet?
Yes, we're bringing it down today. So we're going to be
brilliant.
putting the baubles on, and I can't wait, because I absolutely love Christmas.
Today's the day
I've already
to
got
do
the
it.
music on.
That's the way. Just very quickly, I want to show you this from Neil. He sent us his tree.
Let's have a look.
We haven't got it. Oh, well, we'll get those sorted out
We'll get
at the top
ourselves
of the next
sorted,
hour. In the meantime, while we sort those out, we're going to take a short break. Back with the headlines after your weather.
Well, looking ahead, the UK is looking cloudy and damp in the southeast, but brighter and blustery in the northwest. So let's take a look at the detail now.
Well, southwest England retaining some cloud through the day. 1 or 2 bright spells possible. Cornwall and Devon staying pretty dry, but some rain possible from Dorset eastwards.
And this early rain across southeast England could clear initially before redeveloping later, possibly heavy at times. It'll be mildest here, though, climbing towards 13.
Wales going to have a generally cloudy day, but there'll be some hazy sunshine poking through. It's going to feel a little bit fresher than Saturday.
And there could be some weak sunshine across central England as well, with the thickest cloud continuing to lift. But even where grey skies prevail, it'll remain predominantly dry through today.
And northern parts of England having a dry second half of the weekend. The wind's lighter compared to Saturday, helping it feel less brisk when you step outside.
Scotland, meanwhile, will keep the blustery winds today, with scattered showers pushing into the northwest. These could be heavy at times, accompanied by hail and the odd rumble of thunder.
Moving on to Northern Ireland, blustery showers, but also some sunny spells. Across the north of the area, temperatures slightly down compared to Saturday, at highs of about 10 Celsius.
And the showers will feed into Wales and southeast England later, whilst the rain in the southeast gradually clears. And that's your weather today.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
The Prime Minister faces rebellion as new claims of Tory bullying emerge.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Sunday, the 27th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
As you know, we're live across the whole of the UK on your TV and your radio, and we're across the globe online. So wherever you are and whatever you're up to, you can take us with you. These are your top stories.
A new survey puts the Labour Party 18 points ahead of the Tories as Rishi Sunak attempts to quell a growing rebellion from within his own cabinet.
Well, the Tory party is facing new claims of bullying and inappropriate behaviour amid accusations that some MPs physically manhandled House of Commons staff. Comes as civil servants reportedly prepared to submit new complaints against the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab.
And World Cup fever continues as we head into the second week of the tournament. We look ahead to all the big matches you won't want to miss.
And 4 weeks today until the big day. 28 sleeps until Christmas. Experts say today is the best time to buy your tree to get the pick of the crop. We'll be sharing your tips on how to look after them and dress them nicely.
Lovely trees, if you've got a house big enough for them.
Oh.
Do get in touch or join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk.
So let's start with the news that rebellion continues to grow within the Conservative Party as increasing numbers of MPs support overturning a ban on onshore wind farms, including members of the Cabinet.
The Levelling Up Secretary, Michael Gove, is the latest to back the rebellion. And then there's Business Secretary Grant Shapps and the former Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. They're also supporting this sort of rebellion. And it comes as a new poll, as we were saying, puts Labour 18 points ahead at the moment, a margin that would create a landslide for Labour if there were a general election now.
Yeah, let's talk to political commentator Peter Spencer, who's here in the studio.
Good morning to you both.
Peter. Nice to see you.
And you too.
I mean, it just seems that, I mean, whether this is a disagreement in Cabinet or not over onshore wind farms, it becomes a rebellion because everything is so tense at the moment.
Absolutely. And a rebellion doesn't have to be as big as people think. Johnson got in with an 80-seat majority fab, but it's now been whittled down by a series of resignations and sackings and by-elections and one thing and another. So it only takes 35 Tory MPs to really dig their heels in, and the government's got to change course. And you factor into all that the fact that we look at what's been happening over the last few months and indeed the last couple of years with Johnson and Partygate and so on, and we say, gosh, never seen anything like that before. But the fact is, nor have the MPs. So one gets a sense almost that there's a kind of collective nervous breakdown going on there, certainly a breakdown in discipline and the usual rules. And it has to be said that those who sort of lead them, who are supposed to be setting example, you've got Boris Johnson, who behaved clearly so badly that the MPs chucked him out, and then the membership chose Liz Truss, who pretty much all those around her regard as totally weird. And so you put those two things in and, well, you know, how the little boys and girls are going to behave if the big boys and girls are behaving so badly?
Yeah, well, OK, so how would you describe Rishi Sunak at the moment? Because it seems to be a bit non-charismatic.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, Starmer was accusing him of being weak and so on, and in fact, he's taken that on board. I mean, first off, of course, you know, after all the chaos, he just wanted to say, look, you know, I may be a bit boring, but boring is safe. Let's go with that. Yeah. And we do at least have a government which is in with a chance of actually running the country. Call me old-fashioned saying things like that. But what I'm picking up is that on the back of being told he's weak and is not really doing very much as a technocrat, is that we can expect some fairly hardcore announcements in the next few days about cracking down on immigration and law and order and all that stuff. And also there's a wonderful irony with all this, that he's saying, look, there's absolutely no way we're going to renegotiate our terms of well, no, he's leaving the door slightly open. It's Starmer who's saying there's no way we should reopen that wound. And there's the irony, is that Sunak voted for Brexit and Starmer was the lead voice of the Labour Party of avoiding it.
I mean, this is the trouble. I mean, Keir Starmer is, and for those people who are centre ground, who decide who wins the next election,
yes,
basically,
sure. Yeah.
Keir Starmer is sounding almost a bit more to the right of Rishi Sunak.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you look at the budget, for example, that was sort of widely regarded among Tory holders being a bit of a Labour sort of budget, and so the polarities are extraordinarily reversed in this front.
Yes, isn't that also sounding that way? Because Rishi Sunak is almost doing anything or saying anything that might just keep him in power for a bit longer, whereas Keir Starmer can afford to be a little bit more wide-ranging in his thoughts.
He certainly can, and people say, well, what about his policies then? Well, you know, a lot can happen in the next 2 years. To tie himself into post-election promises is an extremely dumb idea. And therefore, as you say, he can just talk widely and say, look, you guys have cocked up everything. And,
he can be more visionary, can't he?
He can be more
Whereas Rishi Sunak is just having to stick sticking plasters on every wound.
Yes, that's right, yeah. And they multiply by the day. I mean, it's interesting when you look at the Tory backbenchers. We've had a couple of big-ish names already saying they're not going to stand at the next election, and they're supposed to make that clear in the next couple of weeks. Whether they will or not is another matter, but they're supposed to. But it is widely thought that as many as 80 will not stand at the next election, which is double the normal churn.
Well, I was going to say, but we haven't hit that point yet. I mean, there's 9... It's making the headlines so far, but 9 Tory MPs have said they're not going to stand so far. That's making headlines.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous, actually, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, it's a reading of the runes, isn't it? Because what the Conservatives are contemplating is an absolute wipeout at the next election. And you've got to remember this extraordinary thing, which not everyone realises, that actually MPs are human beings, and they do have bills to pay. Many of them have families and mortgages, They're in a much stronger position to get themselves a new job if they ring up a prospective employer and say, now, listen here, I'm a very important person, member of Parliament, blah, 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 blah. A lot stronger than if they...
Than if you've just lost your seat.
Precisely. Yeah, Joe Blogg's on the dole.
Yeah. It's fascinating with all of this. When you look at the polls, and Labour 18, 20 points ahead in the polls still. And as you say, although we're getting headlines out of Starmer, and so on some key issues, said, we're not getting policy at the moment. We're not getting any real policy from the Labour Party yet. We're going to have to start seeing some, aren't we?
At some point, but I come back to my point about how they don't want to tie themselves into promises, because it depends on how everything is looking in a couple of years. I mean, there's, at present, the prognostications from the number crunchers are pretty dire. It may not be that bad. So you find you've promised one particular thing and you think, well, it doesn't stack up.
I'll tell you what was fascinating. Earlier on, we were talking to someone from the Orthodox Conservative group. You can tell by their very name, you know, quite what their position is. And he was saying it's not that he wants the Tories to be in opposition. He thinks they need to be in opposition. So getting to that point in the political cycle where he needs a reset.
Yeah.
Sure. And, I mean, there is a kind of a cyclical thing about this, that governments do sort of run out of steam. And the punters get bored with them. And so, in fact, there was a very good piece of advice given to someone saying, look, just what you need to do now, well, just think of yourselves as having already lost.
Oh.
But that's no way to run our country for the next year and a half, is it?
Well,
2 years. I mean, they've got to actually come up with something that does address some of the worst crises at the moment.
Yes, and hence the Starmer things of policing and immigration. But I mean, the other real factor is that the economy is heading into recession. We have inflation running at the highest point for nearly half a century, and everyone's feeling the pinch, and people are not going to get wage increases to keep abreast of inflation. In fact, anything much less than 15%, which no one's going to get, for heaven's sake, means they're going to get a pay cut. So there's going to be a collective sense of disgruntlement among the electorate, and you know, the inevitable happens. That you say, well, it's all the government's fault, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye, I can't help but notice that you brought a book in with you. Is that your Christmas book? What is it?
It is my latest novel.
Oh, you write
you're
novels.
A novel writer,
Oh, yes, this is my second novel.
Oh.
Yeah, and...
Trudy's Tricks?
Trudy's Tricks.
Is it Tales from Inside Westminster or something?
Well, it is. It's something between a political satire and a political thriller, at a very crazy level and eerily topical, I have to say, but it's told through the eyes of a 5-year-old girl named Trudy, who happens to be preposterously precocious, gloriously intelligent and utterly charming. And she gets into all manner of scrapes. I would explain that her dad is a former Prime Minister. He's campaigning very actively to prevent the British government, which is cash-strapped, sound familiar, trying to buy some Chinese trains for the HS2 project to cut a few costs here, sound familiar. And Trudy's dad is very anxious about that because of the fact he sees there's a security implication with all the signalling stuff. The American president, and who bears no relation to anybody living or dead, but does happen to have a very, very orange complexion which glows in the dark, and his name is Mugwump, who's so concerned about this, he's threatening to actually nuke London. Trudy gets kidnapped first by the Americans, then by the Chinese.
Don't give away too much. Nobody will want to read it.
I tell you what.
She saves London from getting nuked.
Oh, good. Well, now we know the end.
Have you had it legaled? You might have to. Peter, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. My goodness.
It's funny when you read stuff that bears a striking resemblance to
I love
reality.
that, I must say. Yeah, I really
funny.
like it.
The
It's
book's
funny.
funny.
It's
The
funny.
book is funny.
Glad to hear it. Good, because we need a smile.
Have you got your Christmas tree up, Peter, at home?
Oh, Christmas tree.
No.
No.
I've got a nice little pink one.
Well, that doesn't
Well,
surprise
if
me.
it's a tree, that's the
Doesn't
main thing. If
surprise
it
me.
makes you feel warm and cosy. We've sent lots of lovely pictures of trees. Neil sent us this one. Should we have a look? I think we found it now.
Oh, there we
you
go.
are.
Oh,
a
it's
vision in blue.
It is blue.
So you've gone for the very sophisticated colour, sort of swatch.
It's a very
It's very
conservative.
designer. It is very conservative, actually.
Here's Barry and Jenny in Birmingham. Oh, that's very white.
Yeah, that's what I did last year, totally white.
Oh, there you go. Well, very nice. Each to their own. See, I like a bit of colour, but
Well, have we got Stevens? Have we got a picture of Stevens yet? Because, crumbs, it takes so long to put things into the computer in this place. But we'll show you a picture of Stevens.
We will. I can't hear anything, by the way.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what's going on. No, they haven't got it.
Oh, no.
But we'll get it up next, because I want to ask you if you can rival Stevens, because it's very, very beautiful.
It's quite nice.
Should we bring you up to date with today's headlines?
Police have launched a murder investigation into the fatal stabbing of two 16-year-old boys in south-east London. The stabbings happened yesterday, a mile apart in Abbey Wood and Thamesmead. Detectives trying to determine whether they are linked.
The government says the online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. It says the changes were influenced by Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her life in 2017 after viewing suicide and self-harm content online. And this new offence would target the people that manipulate the vulnerable, making it absolutely illegal for them to do so.
The Prince and Princess of Wales have paid tribute to the rugby union great Doddy Weir, who died yesterday. He was just 52. The couple called the former Scotland international a hero and an inspiration. He suffered from motor neuron disease, but he used his profile to raise awareness of the condition and raise funds.
So it's 4 weeks exactly till the big day, Christmas Day, and it's also 1 week since the start of the World Cup in Qatar, with the competition already packed with dramas and surprises and a few letdowns.
Yes, well, it was Argentina's day yesterday. Lionel Messi and Enzo Fernandez keeping them in the tournament. France became the first team to make it through, though, to the final 16.
Well, Aidan McGee's joined us now and he can tell us what's going on today.
Today, yes, some big games tonight. I mean, certainly the standout one today. It's unusual, Anne, that you get 4 games in a day at any other World Cup. Is because we're cramming things in, because we've split the season in half, and that's why it's only lasted for 29 days. So it's great if you're a football junkie like me. So tonight, Spain take on Germany. Really big game for Germany. Spain looked fantastic in their first game, albeit against a very weak Costa Rica side. They won 7-0. Germany lost, having taken the lead against Japan in their first game. Big surprise for them to lose that game, although Japan are a pretty decent side. But tonight it means if you lose 2 games in a row, it's pretty much curtains on your life in the groups.
So the 4 that are today, are they at different times? They're not at
different times, yeah.
So you'll watch one after the other after the other?
You can do, yeah. People do that. I mean, there was a guy on the radio the other day, so he puts his onesie on at 10 in the morning and he's watches it all the way through till 9 o'clock in the evening.
Love doing that.
Lazy devil.
What I wanted to ask you is when I tuned into the 2 matches yesterday, day before, I was just so amazed. The commentators that we were hearing knew everybody's name. Now, it's one thing to be a British commentator knowing all the footballers' names for the major leagues, but to know everybody's name in every team in the world.
They've got
how can they know?
They've got
they're talking really fast and they say, they know their name.
I'm the only person who does it without a crib sheet. Seriously, I am.
Well, yeah, but
Could you commentate on one of these World Cup days today, knowing the names? As they're running for the ball, knowing their names.
The thing is, though, and they've known that this World Cup's coming for a while. They know the squad got announced about a month ago. They've had plenty of time.
Yeah, but how do you?
Some of the names are familiar. Some of the names are familiar anyway. I mean, the England squad would be familiar. Yeah, it's tough for the co-coms, I would say.
We were playing Iran the other day, and and everybody knew their names. I just couldn't get over that. It's amazing.
I know. Well, some of them do play in European leagues. It depends on the background of the commentator. If they're used to commentating, it could be an English. There are lots of English commentators who work overseas. In fact, when I was watching beIN Sports the other day, it was amazing how many English commentators have worked their way into their network over in Qatar without anyone giving them any heat. But it's part of the job. job. You have to think of all the subjects you have to cover.
It's terrible
when you're on here.
to know somebody's name when you can barely see who it is running for the ball. But
It's about research. My English teacher said to me at school. She said, "I can't."
Yeah, she said you can't remember anything.
She said you can't know every text that's ever been written, but you never know what's going to appear on the syllabus year to year. You just have to. Sometimes you just have to learn it. You have to learn it, and that's just been research.
I found that more impressive than the football.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, if you're watching England, I don't blame you, or Wales. But yeah, so Spain-Germany tonight. Spain looked good in their first game. If Germany go out tonight, that'll be 2 tournaments in a row that they've gone out. Sorry, 2 World Cups in a row that they've gone out in the group stage. I don't remember any time in my lifetime when Germany haven't got out of the groups. They normally get to the quarter-final at least.
That would be seen as a real humiliation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And because they lost that game against Japan, it's a nasty group, but going up to Spain, I wouldn't want to be playing Spain looking to save my skin in the tournament. But we had a great day yesterday as well. Of course, Lionel Messi came to the party with Argentina. They lost their...
Yeah, but they weren't particularly strong, though, Argentina.
No, they weren't. That's a fair point. But they needed that win. The pressure was on because when you're one of these countries who've won multiple World Cups, yesterday in the stadium, there had so many Argentina fans willing them on, and you can just tell the atmosphere was on a knife edge. It was had they gone behind against Mexico, a very competent team, then the atmosphere would have turned. But Lionel Messi didn't do that much in the game. But this is what great players do, Stephen. They turn up when you need them most. And Cristiano Ronaldo does it week in, week out. Lionel Messi just the same. It was a fantastic goal, and that gives him a bit of breathing space going into those third games. As we said beforehand, on the last round of group games, they all kick off simultaneously because it's been deemed over the last 25 years or so that if you... QPR, for example, let me bring them into this. 1976, QPR, Liverpool won the league, having kicked off 10 days after QPR finished all their games. So it was deemed to be an advantage that Liverpool went into their final game knowing what they had to do. I don't know. I think sometimes you still play 38 games in a season or 3 games in a group stage, regardless of whether you play. But it is deemed a disadvantage now. It's a nightmare for TV companies because they can't show all the games.
No, I was going to say, well, how are you going to watch it that day? Because was it Sam Allardyce who said to us he's going to go into a room where he's got 4 televisions?
No, it wasn't. It was the American guy.
Oh,
Eric.
That's right. Yes.
Winalda.
Yeah. Well, he's going to watch all 4 of them together.
Yeah, Sam could do that as well. I've been to his house, so he's definitely got plenty of TV screens.
Really?
I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I bet he has. I bet he has. Lovely, Aidan. Thank you very much
See you in a bit.
indeed. Is it funny what you remember though? I remember being at primary school and we were doing all the stuff about the Ice Age and glacial movement through the Lake District. And I remember the teacher saying, now, here's one thing. This is the one thing in all of this you don't need to remember, and that's called an alluvial fan.
Ooh, and you remembered it all these years later?
It's the only thing I remember.
Yeah.
What about stalagmites and stalactites?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is which?
Yeah.
One hangs off the ceiling, one grows up, doesn't it?
Stalactites hang off.
Yes, because they hang from the top. And stalagmites from the bottom because there's like mountains from the bottom.
Oh.
So mites, mountains, tights, tops.
Oh, there you go.
That's how I remember that. So there you go.
You see, it's all these little tricks.
And what's the difference between moths and butterflies?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Moths have balls at the end of their wings.
Have you ever walked in the clouds?
Walked in the clouds?
What's that?
Fog. Fog's just cloud.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, my head's in the clouds.
Sorry, they don't have balls at the end of their wings. They have balls at the end of their...
Antennae.
Antennae, that's it. Yeah. I'll never forget that because my father, who was very, very Scottish, said that he used to describe them as bulbs at the end of their wings.
Oh.
So I always imagined they were little little light finders, you know. And then when the teacher said, "What's the difference between moths and butterflies?" It was me, oh, me, because they've got bulbs at the end of their antennae, and everybody laughed.
Oh. Oh, well, if this isn't too risky, is it risque?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think so. But because I'm from half my family on my dad's side were all farmers, and the other half on my mum's side were all shipwrights, basically working at Vickers in Barrow, building ships and then submarines and all the rest of it. So my uncle Bob, when he was a little boy, just thought his nipples were they used to call them screws.
Really?
Because everything was all mechanical. He thought if you needed an operation, they unscrewed you and took the top off.
Oh, my goodness. So you didn't say that in front of anybody like
Well,
me?
no, but we all...
I did in front of the class.
But it all just grew up, so we all just grew up calling them screws.
Your parents can give you funny things that you come out later and say, and you realise that those things should only be said within the family.
Sorry, Uncle Bob, if you're watching this morning. But
I like the idea of them, if they're operating on you, they unscrew you. I mean,
yeah, they just unscrew
that would make more sense, wouldn't it?
It'd be great, wouldn't it? Oh, yeah, look at your screws. There you go. Anyway, that's risque. I do apologise. I don't think it is. No, there you go. It was only a little
You can say nipple on television nowadays, I think, quite happily. Yes.
Grief.
We're in the 21st century.
What's the world coming to? Anyway,
Now,
look,
here's an
coming
interesting
up,
one.
Yes. Could vaping rot your teeth? We'll find out more after this.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
It is very nearly 8:25. Good morning to you watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah, now we're going to talk about something that is affecting a lot of young people at the moment, particularly because it's all to do with the new trend, and we've always seen it as a very healthy trend, for vaping.
Yes, because it's better than smoking.
Well, exactly. And a lot of young people are taking it up. Instead of taking up, they may never have smoked cigarettes.
See, that's
but
the
they're sort
thing.
of taking up vaping because it's the next thing to do.
It's meant to be a way of getting off cigarettes, not something you start up on your own.
Unfortunately, it's developed a whole trend of its own, hasn't
it? It hasn't it? Anyway, a new study carried out at Tufts University School of Dental Medicine in Boston has found that people who vape are more at risk of developing cavities than those who don't.
Yeah, this is quite startling because the data revealed that 79% of vaping patients had a higher risk of suffering teeth problems as opposed to only 60% of the control group. That's quite a lot more.
It is. Well, here to tell us more is founder of Bespoke Smile Advanced Dentistry and Academy. And got to say, because you've just become Vice President of the British
Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry.
So you are one of the top cosmetic dentists in the country, Dr. Sham Jethra. What do you make of all of this? Did you come across this before in your work?
I mean, it's a fascinating stat, isn't it? I mean, in the US study, there's a huge number of people who are vaping are much more likely to get cavities. And we do see vapors in my clinic. People will be motivated to give up smoking to achieve their dream smile, and a lot of our patients do give up. As soon as they leave the clinic, it's like, right, I want that healthy smile, I'm going to give up smoking. And they'll often pick up vaping, which Public Health England do actually suggest it's 95% better than smoking because of the lack of tobacco, tar. But what we don't know is the long-term effect. And that's where the research needs to continue.
Now, if you look at the flavours of vapes that are available, is it because vaping has a lot of sugar in it or something like that?
Well, that's what this study in the US did highlight, that the flavours may contain sugar. And there's an oral microbiome in the mouth, a collection of organisms that keep things balanced. If that gets disrupted by the sugar or the chemicals in the vape, it will change things. You might get more tooth decay or even gum disease.
And when you vape, you're filling your mouth all the time, for a long period of time, aren't you, with that sort of vapour?
And that long period of time is really critical because what I'm thinking in terms of vaping and what I'm seeing is it's an anywhere, anytime situation, whereas with smoking, it's a slightly different thing.
Yeah, and what about, I mean, Anne talked about a lot of children vaping or younger people vaping. I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, you don't want anyone to have bad dental health, but if bad dental health is starting at a young age, then it's a significantly bigger problem, isn't it?
And this is the concern. You know, there's a worrying statistic. 8.9% of 11 to 18-year-olds in the UK in 2021 admitted to vaping either regularly or occasionally. I speak to my GP colleagues and friends, and my wife is a GP in London. Recently, a patient came in, a 12-year-old, and said their entire class vapes. So
Hang on, what age?
12.
They all vaped?
Yeah. The entire class. So if that trend continues, and that stat is up, double from last year, then we could have some health issues in our young adults.
Like sucking a sweet all day or something.
Yeah, it's the anytime, anywhere situation with the vaping and the lack of smoke. And it almost is advertised as something that is healthier than smoking, which isn't, that is true. But we have to kind of be aware that the stats aren't there yet, the studies are not there yet, we just don't know.
Where are we in terms of general dental health? Because a lot of we're in this financial crisis at the moment, right? And I mean, years ago, we were talking about poor dental health, particularly amongst young people, and not sort of being, in a way, not being taught properly by their parents how to look after their teeth. At a time when people are really short of money and perhaps aren't going for checkups and things in the same way, that's just going to exacerbate the problem, isn't it?
Prevention is always better than cure. You know, that's the message. And it can be in certain areas of the country hard to access an NHS dentist, and we know the challenges.
And the pandemic didn't help either.
Yeah, the situation overall isn't great for access. And so we have to try to get access, but also prevent. And it's about frequency of sugars, it's about not taking up habits that can encourage you to have dental health issues, and just staying healthy is really critical.
So, I mean, at least 2 of my sons vape. Should I be telling them, nagging them, to brush their teeth more?
Brushing your teeth is looking after the gums, and of course, twice a day is ideal. You can overbrush, because we can start causing wear of the teeth and things like that. So twice a day is absolutely fine, but it's important how to brush, and there's also the adjunct of seeing a hygienist.
But you said it's very important, this biome, did you say, inside the mouth? The mouth has its own healthy level of bacteria, I suppose.
Bacteria balance,
Aren't you even disrupting that with brushing?
Well, the brushing is there to clean the surfaces of the teeth. So the mechanical movement is what it's all about. It's about removing that plaque and stopping it building up. And if the gums are inflamed, brushing well will clear that up. And that's what it's all about, really. So there's an old phrase, only brush the teeth you want to keep.
Yeah.
Of Gosh.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
But it's interesting, you say, amidst all of this, hygienist appointments. Okay. Now, how regularly should you do it? Because, I mean, I have to say, I see my hygienist every 3 months, because you get a better price. If you go every 3 months, you get a better... And I like to think they're being looked after.
Yeah. And it's not so traumatic.
And it's not so traumatic, but it does end up getting very expensive.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is trying to maintain a checkup if you can access it. It's very important. But if you can't access, or you're not able to get in, and it's important to be preventative. It's the sugars in the diet, it's the brushing well, changing the head on the toothbrush every 3 months. If you have an electric toothbrush, there's sales on at the moment.
Well, I was
now
just
might be the time.
Christmas, our electric toothbrush is good.
Now might be the time to get an electric toothbrush. Electric toothbrush is used well, manual toothbrush is used well, the result will be the same.
Yeah.
But I think an electric toothbrush can help people to achieve a better level of brushing.
It's because you can position the head in a way at the right angle and just maintain it, can't you?
That's exactly the message. If you put the brush into the right location, upwards 45 degrees into the gum line at the top, downwards this way, hold it, let the electric brush do its work, you'll get a good level of cleaning.
Oh, there you go, you see. If you didn't know what to buy someone for Christmas...
Well, yeah, and it's a goodie, that one.
It is a goodie. Dr Sam, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Absolutely fascinating. If you are a vapor or your children are vapors, how do you think about that? Would you brush your teeth more often to keep the teeth you want to keep?
But it's about giving up the vaping, isn't it, really, ultimately?
Yeah, that's the trouble with taking it up, and you don't need to take anything up.
Yeah,
it's
meant to be a step to stopping altogether.
And it's become a thing on its own.
It's become a thing of its own.
Mm.
So that's the problem. You say better for your health than if you're a smoker. It's much better for your health.
Better than smoking.
But not as, you've got to think about everything else as well. So it's not trying to put you off vaping if you're trying to get off the fags.
No, but you need to keep your teeth. As you get older, you get more and more fond of them. and you really don't want to lose them.
And you get long in the tooth,
You do get long in the tooth, yes, you do. That's a phrase.
Dentist is always saying, you've got a millimetre retraction. It was like that 5 years ago, though. It's not changed.
No, I wouldn't want to hear that.
Not a panic, do I? I'll be coming to see you, Sam, to sort that out. Anyway, look, coming up after the break, we're going to be going through the papers with David Hamilton and Claire Muldoon.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
To Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something good happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip
of the iceberg. And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere. Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel. Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful. Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
8:37. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Good morning to you.
Time to go through the papers now. Joining us this morning, television and radio legend David Hamilton and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. So very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Shall we kick off with one I was wanting to find out more about a while ago.
I bet you were.
Yeah, it's in the Sunday Express, and it's about what the Queen felt about Harry and Meghan.
Yes, well, the Queen feared that Harry was perhaps a little too in love with Meghan. This is Giles Brandreth.
What does that mean?
I don't know. How can you be too much in love with somebody?
You can be besotted.
Besotted. It's Giles Brandreth in his new book, Elizabeth, An Intimate Portrait. And the Queen said she liked Meghan very much when she first met her, and she did everything to make her welcome. She said she could continue her career. She said, you can carry on being an actress if you like. That is your profession after all. But obviously she had reservations about Harry. And yes, I think besotted is probably the word that sums it up, isn't it? And I think also William was... William kind of warned him, didn't he? I mean, Harry didn't like that, but William said, you know, take your time, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yes, apparently that started the rift.
I don't think it matters if you're besotted, as long as you're both besotted. Is that the issue?
Yeah. Well, I think she appeared to be besotted with him as well, didn't she?
She is an actress, after all. But also on that... Ouch. Also, on that, though, I think there's a tendency that he could have been blinded as well. And, you know, there's that, you know, the kind of thing about puppy love or whatever. He's a, you know, he was second and third.
Maybe
in line
not so
for
much
the throne.
besotted then, but bewitched.
Bewitched, perhaps. Cast under a spell, perhaps. But we can't keep making Meghan out to be the bad one. You know, he was you know, he is over the age of consent.
Yeah.
He's old enough, wise enough, you would hope. But he's, you know, he's married her. She's a beautiful looking woman. He's a lovely lad. But I'm quite happy that
there were lots of English women, weren't there, that he dated who didn't want to marry him or link up with him. And I think, you know, there were signs that they saw which were obviously worrying. Maybe it was, you know, the job that they were taking on.
I think that was the case.
But here at last was somebody who really did want to. And, you know...
Maybe for the wrong reasons. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe she just didn't quite get what being a royal was actually going to be like.
I think this thing that's happened this week about the award that they're getting in New York, I mean, what this does is this just makes people very, very angry because she is getting an award for raising the alarm about racism in the royal family, but she could never mention the name of the person who said this. And she's never, ever able, is she, to mention the names of people that she's accusing of. I don't think you can accuse people if you don't actually mention their names.
It spread the accusation too wide, didn't it?
It smears everybody.
It smeared the whole of the royal family.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
And I have to say, if someone did say, and I think they probably did say, oh, I wonder what colour the baby's going to be. Well, I don't think that's a terrible thing to say.
Nor do I.
I think it's Sarah Vine in the Mail today who is saying that if anybody deserves the award, it's Prince Charles for his attitude, towards the Commonwealth and the things that he's done with the Commonwealth, and not them.
Fair point. Let's look at the Sunday Telegraph, should we? What's it saying about Ms. Sturgeon?
Right, so this is a different article from the one from the previous news review. This is by Simon Heffer in the features section of today's Telegraph. And he's saying that Sturgeon's achievements, drug deaths, failing schools and a collapsing NHS are the things that Ms Sturgeon should actually be concentrating on at the moment, instead of her journey through to independence. We all know that her party stands for independence. We all know it'd be wrong of her then as leader not to go down that route. But how many routes does she have to go down? Plan A failed in 2014 when they had the referendum. Plan B failed when she took the Scottish Government took the Supreme Court action to get the validity of the Pretendy ref next October 2023. But now Plan C, we would say, is the next general election will be used as a de facto referendum, which my view is it wouldn't be legitimate for reasons previously stated. Now, I do think she really has to concentrate on the fact that her education system is appalling. There haven't been any Ofsted or HMI inspections for the past 5 years in most of the public service.
But university is still free.
Universities are still only for European residents and Scottish residents, not for English students.
No, but that's fair enough, probably, isn't it?
European gets it for free.
Yeah, well, they pay a nominal amount of fees. It's not particularly free. Whereas English students have to pay £9,500 for the same course. Yes, they do.
English do, but Scottish
yes,
don't.
They do. And nor do members of the European Union. They don't pay, and Ireland as well.
Why don't they pay?
Well, Stephen, there'll be viewers out there that will be Twitter warriors, keyboard warriors, that will come out and give you absolute rhetoric as to why.
Basically, it's because the Scottish Government, which is now devolved, could take that decision.
No, it's always been the case.
Yeah, well, that's right, but they took the decision not to opt into fees, didn't they?
Always. And also, the other interesting thing is, where Scotland's education used to be fantastic, really, really good, they've now stopped publishing their results on international league tables as well. And you might say, well, so what? Well, no, they're doing it because the results are so bad. The attainment levels are so huge between those that can and those that can't. And those that can aren't even attaining as much as or as best as they should be. And now Scottish teachers are now going on strike, or they were wanting to go on strike. There's so much wrong with Scotland that I think independence is the least of their worries.
Do you know, the funny thing is you only hear about that when you're in Scotland. You don't hear about the nitty-gritty of what may be wrong or right in Scotland down here in the south.
And that's why it's so important that we highlight features and papers. And that's Alex Massey and Simon Heffer today in two of the big ones. We need more of it.
Let's go to another big one. Mail on Sunday. And Katia Jones, who, David, I know the name, but I can't work out who she is.
Katia Jones is the dancer on Strictly who was dancing with Tony Adams.
Oh, right.
And she said, if I can get Tony to dance like that every week, I can do anything. But the headline is that Katia Jones is saying modern men are terrified of strong women like me. That's why I've not had a date for 3 years. She said, my standards are high. I'm not going to lie. I'm not one for pointless chat. I think, she's supposed to have had...
She sounds charming.
Yeah, absolutely charming. She's reckoned to have had a row with Tony Adams on the set, which she actually denies. She said it wasn't actually a row, but it certainly looked like it. And I think she is what you might call a strict disciplinarian.
Right. Yeah.
Some people actually like that kind of thing.
Well, they do. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with being a strong woman. Be strong, independent women, I'm all for it. All for it, but I don't think you can then sort of, let's say, it's men's fault that they won't date me.
No, but it is in the Mail on Sunday.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, They just
What
like
does that
to paint
mean? I'm
women
not quite
as
sure what you
awkward,
mean by that.
difficult women. They like to make big headlines out of anything women say about anything that will stir.
I think. Do you watch Strictly?
No.
Oh, you don't.
No.
Either
I
of you?
do.
Yeah.
Well, if Strictly's on, you would see it on Christmas Day because your TV's always on Christmas Day. You've just said
it doesn't have to be on BBC One, though, does it?
No.
I think she is particularly tough. I mean, if you were dancing on that show, I don't think really you would want.
Well, you
if
have
you
to
knew
be
you'd got
disciplined. They're
her,
wonderful
I
professionals.
think you'd be quaking in your boots.
Yeah, but she's the professional, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, she is. But
So
I
she's
think you
got to
can
teach.
get people. I'm not a dancer, but I think you can get people to dance without being really tough on them.
Have they asked you yet? You'd be a corker on it. Have they asked you? You'd be fab, wouldn't you?
Well,
yes, I think so.
I would be by far the oldest person who's ever been on there if they asked me.
I don't know.
You should ask my wife. She will tell you I'm the world's worst dancer.
Are you?
Oh,
well, you're a challenge then.
Oh,
Maybe
I
you
love
need to practice.
I've got no rhythm at all.
Oh.
No, well.
How can you say that? All your years of playing music.
Well, I can play it, but I can't dance to it.
No.
We'll see about that.
Quite how we go from that prospect of David. I would watch it then, David. To The Observer and police failings, Claire.
Yeah, so we were speaking earlier about the fire service and the institutional racism and misogyny there from that independent inquiry. The police failings of a damning indictment of Tory rule, says The Observer. And I don't necessarily think it's just down to a Conservative premiership or leadership or rules, because Conservatives particularly are quite tough on law and order. That is their thing. However, half the English police forces inspected since last year are failing to meet required standards at investigating crime, according to analysis by The Observer, that raises questions whether policing is actually fit for purpose. Now, we know that there is an absolute need for recruitment of decent policemen and women in this country. We know that crimes are rising. We know as citizens, if we were to call in a report for a mugging or a house break-in or a theft, you would, at best, get a police number. You wouldn't
get a crime number.
get a crime number, but you would not necessarily get a visit to your home to see what the impact would then be, and then you might get a letter through the letterbox. What has been your impact to your health of the crime that you've reported? But also on that as well, if you've insurance, for insurance purposes, you need these crime numbers. So it's driven on both sides. However, we've got a really bad problem in our country with policing. Now, there is, I think it's Chief Constable Watson in Manchester Police Force that is actually getting back to basics, he would say. He wants bobbies to be on the beat. And he said yesterday a wonderful thing. He said, look, leave social media alone to his force. Step away from it. Because you're not there to make TikTok videos. You're not there to dance. You're not there for Strictly. You're not there to make political messages. You're not there to make any messages at all, because that's not your profession. Your profession is to uphold the law. And he also wants bobbies back on the beat.
Well, you see, that's what people say in any survey. Ordinary people who, after all, the ones we are the ones who deserve a police force that we need.
Yeah.
And they all say, we need some more police force.
It comforts people
Bobby's on the
to
beat,
see.
isn't it?
If people see police, it makes them feel
You need to see
secure.
them driving around your area and walking around your area.
I used to have, 10 years ago, I had a community policeman. He used to pop round once every couple of weeks, have a cup of tea and all that. Albert, morning Albert, should you be watching? And it was great, because, it's gone now.
But that's how so many crimes were solved. Bobbies on the beat at night would see a light, hear a sound, investigate, and get chummy.
But also, David, they would know their community.
Yes.
They would get to know who was living in the residences and the homes that they were patrolling.
Oh, yeah, they knew the area.
And the families.
I don't know, but if you had a police chief here, they would probably say, they've certainly said it in the past, yes, but policing's not like that anymore.
Well,
we
it
have
should be.
cybercrime to deal with. We have,
That's what it should be. Not giving cups of tea to people holding up people on motorways and saying, are you all right? Burglary, which is the most awful crime, intrusion of your home, and sometimes violent. How many burglaries are solved?
Yeah, and I think the important point is, and we got this from our interview with Ellie yesterday, Ellie Costello, is if you feel you're in danger, you should feel that you can run up the street to a policeman.
Yeah.
But if you looked around, would there ever be a policeman to help you?
And there's
Yes.
no trust as well.
No, no.
It's gone.
Tory cuts, I think. Tory cuts.
Oh,
I'm afraid.
David, you're being
No,
controversial.
I'm afraid so. Theresa May has a lot to answer for, I think.
Oh, well, on that note, David Hamilton, Claire Muldoon, we must leave it. Thank you both very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Stick around, David, though, you like this one.
Yes, because this is something we sort of touched on yesterday, isn't it? We were talking about it from the newspapers, actually, about naturism. And naturists in a particular pub, they've had to sort of call off their naturist event because they were worried, or lots of people had complained, that it would cause road traffic accidents because motorists driving past the pub would look in through the windows of the pub and see people who were naked.
Like glimpse a nipple.
Yeah.
Anyway, is this controversial or not? Well, let's get one side of the story from Alan Peel, who is in East Sussex. Morning, Alan. Good to see you this morning. And you've been to some of these events He is naked,
Yes. Of course he is.
It's a naturist.
Naturist, yeah.
Why do you think
this
is
is Henry's idea, your producer.
Yeah. Well, blame Henry.
Yeah.
But I mean, why has this caused such a hoo-ha? People in a pub, just having a night out, people of like minds. Why has it caused such a problem?
What a rumpus. It's ridiculous. And of course, we lost our meal as well. But do you want some background?
Yes, please.
These naked dining events have been going on up and down the country for ages. They're very popular. We've had several in East Sussex alone. Probably about 10 of them in 4 or 5 different places. And we've always been welcomed back. We've had a great time. The publicans or the restaurateurs love us because we're good customers. We behave ourselves. We don't wreck the joint. You know, what happened here, I think as far as we know, 1 or 2 people in the village got wind that there were going to be naked people using their pub, and they just didn't like it. And they almost pressurised the licensee into cancelling the booking, which it was a shame because we understood that they were really looking forward to having us.
Well, at a difficult time for pubs and what have you, it's they've got a full bar for the night. I mean, what's the problem?
Yeah, I mean they lost quite a lot of business because of this.
I presume there would have been a notice up for anyone who was just sort of walking on past and thought they'd go in for a pint. There would have been a notice up saying it's Naturist's night.
I think this business of perhaps people being seen through the front windows has been overblown. That's not the real subject under discussion. There's because of the ignorance surrounding naturism, people hadn't a clue what we might be getting up to. Incidentally, we always sit on a towel, in case you were wondering, which is something that people do wonder about.
Yeah. But enlighten us.
So what the real reason was, I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry,
enlighten us then. Why do you bother? Why do you do a naturist's evening in a pub? Why bother?
We are a social club. We do everything that other people do. The only difference is that we're naked. And we're naked because we feel comfortable, we're happy, we feel in tune with our environment. And I personally have met some lovely people through naturism that I wouldn't have met otherwise. So it's just a social activity. It's just a normal social activity without clothing.
But I mean, there is, and it's maybe it's because we're British and it's all this sort of British attitude. We just have these total misconceptions, don't we, about something which seems a little bit naughty, but isn't at all.
Well, it's not just naturism. It's about perception in this country around the naked human body, and there's a very serious side to that. Lots of young people are being bullied to the point of suicide because they don't conform to whoever is the latest flavour of the month in terms of looks. And, their lives are being really upset by this. Yeah. So there is a serious side. I think the more that the general public were exposed to the naked human body, then it would almost become the norm, or it would become another norm. In fact, we would very much like to have integrated events with clothed people so that we could have a discourse with them. They could see that we're just normal people, not wearing any clothes. And we hope that progression could be made from there.
But I tell you what, Alan, you make your point very well. Really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
And have a happy Christmas.
Thank you for having me.
Or you will somewhere.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, well, look, don't go anywhere. We've got all the top stories coming up after a look at the weather for you.
Well, looking ahead, the UK is looking cloudy and damp in the southeast, but brighter and blustery in the northwest. So let's take a look at the detail now.
Well, southwest England retaining some cloud through the day. 1 or 2 bright spells possible. Cornwall and Devon staying pretty dry, but some rain possible from Dorset eastwards.
And this early rain across southeast England could clear initially before redeveloping later, possibly heavy at times. It'll be mildest here, though, climbing towards 13.
Wales going to have a generally cloudy day, but there'll be some hazy sunshine poking through. It's going to feel a little bit fresher than Saturday.
And there could be some weak sunshine across central England as well, with the thickest cloud continuing to lift. But even where grey skies prevail, it'll remain predominantly dry through today.
And northern parts of England having a dry second half of the weekend. The winds lighter compared to Saturday, helping it feel less brisk when you step outside.
Scotland, meanwhile, will keep the blustery winds today, with scattered showers pushing into the northwest. These could be heavy at times, accompanied by hail and the odd rumble of thunder.
Moving on to Northern Ireland, blustery showers, but also some sunny spells. Across the north of the area, temperatures slightly down compared to Saturday, at highs of about 10 Celsius.
And the showers will feed into Wales and southeast England later, whilst the rain in the southeast gradually clears. And that's your weather today.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
The Prime Minister faces rebellion as new claims of Tory bullying emerge.
Good morning. 9 o'clock, Sunday the 27th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK, on your TV, on your radio and online, all over the world. Anywhere you are, you can take us with you. Here are your top stories this morning.
Well, a new poll puts the Labour Party 18 points ahead of the Tories as the Prime Minister attempts to quell a growing rebellion within his own cabinet.
The Tory party is facing fresh claims of bullying and inappropriate behaviour amid accusations that MPs physically manhandled House of Commons staff. It comes as civil servants reportedly prepare to submit new complaints against Dominic Raab.
World Cup fever continues. We're heading into the second week. We're going to look ahead to the big matches that you may not want to miss.
And with just exactly 4 weeks to go until Christmas, experts say that today is the best time to buy your tree, to get the pick of the crop and get the most out of your tree before its needles all fall off all over the floor.
Yeah, if you're planning to do that or if you've done it already, we'd love to hear from you this morning. In fact, anything you want to talk about, gbviews@gbnews.uk. So let's kick off, should we, with that rebellion, as it's being called, within the Conservative Party. Increasing numbers of MPs are supporting overturning a ban on onshore wind farms, including, we're told, members of the Cabinet.
Yes, Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove is the latest to back this so-called rebellion. Business Secretary Grant Shapps and the former Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Liz Truss also supporting this so-called rebellion. It comes as a new poll puts Labour 18 points ahead at the moment. If that actually happened in a general election, Keir Starmer would get a landslide.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Tom Harwood, who's here. Morning, Tom. Is this a storm in a teacup or a real problem for the Prime Minister?
It's fascinating because we're looking at what's called the Levelling Up and Planning Bill. Now, this was a bill that was pulled. It was meant to be voted on tomorrow, but it was pulled by the government after a different set of amendments backed by a different group of rebels, this time on sort of the anti-planning side of things, wanting to water down commitments to build more houses, get rid of these targets for local areas and the presumption for development. Those were amendments backed by, laid by Theresa Villiers and backed by a huge number of Tory MPs, meaning that the bill was sort of delayed. But in response to that, you've got a group of pro-planning Tory MPs doing sort of an opposite set of amendments, led by the former Levelling Up Secretary Simon Clarke, seeking to overturn this ban on onshore wind farms. Now, it's one of the few things that Liz Truss did during her time as Prime Minister, was overturn that ban, first brought in at the tail end of David Cameron's premiership. But Rishi Sunak, when he became Prime Minister, reimposed that ban as one of the first things. And that has baffled a few people in the Conservative Party, particularly given the energy crisis that we're in right now. There are a number of Conservative MPs who think this was the wrong thing to do, and notably Simon Clarke, who's quite well respected on the Tory benches and has had a ministerial career for quite a while, now on the backbenches, of course. He's managed to galvanise the former Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Liz Truss to support this amendment.
Yeah, I mean,
it really seems to be
here,
getting momentum. The Conservative Home website has also backed it as well. And it's interesting because Boris Johnson and Liz Truss have been very, very quiet since they left office, not supporting any rebellions until now. And today, in the Sunday papers, we're seeing that some members of the Cabinet are sort of telling friends and making it known that they would back this amendment as well. So it'll be fascinating to see how the government actually responds to this, because it does seem that on many, many issues, the government is sort of following its own backbenchers rather than leading them.
Yeah, but it also then looks like a U-turn as well.
Well, it certainly would be.
Doesn't look good for any Prime Minister at the moment.
Yet another U-turn, of course, because Liz Truss U-turned on the Cameron pledge to get rid of this ban, and then Rishi Sunak reimposed it. And so if this was then going to get it out, it would be a bit like the hokey cokey, really. So many bans and unbans, but we've been so used to, over the last sort of 2 or 3 months, to many, many different U-turns over many, many different things. And it does seem that there's a sort of sense of party discipline within the Conservative Party has sort of fallen by the wayside, that members of Parliament...
How in an election can you possibly ask the electorate to vote for you if, and you lay out, a whole swathe of plans, and that with the possibility, now that we know, that you could just do a U-turn on any of them?
Yes, it's a problem of trust, really. And that really does show sort of how the government is flailing a little bit. And perhaps the departure of Gavin Williamson, who of course was a bit of an enforcer, he was criticised of being a bit of an enforcer in government, but perhaps that was necessary to keep people in line, because what you have now is a situation within the Conservative Party that more than half of MPs, of Conservative MPs, have been a minister in the past or currently.
Gosh.
And that means that it's very hard to sort of dangle the proposition of, oh, you might be in the cabinet in a couple of years. A lot of these people have been in the cabinet already. They're sort of seeing perhaps they've done their time in sort of frontline government politics and are now sort of thinking, what issues are they going to promote from the backbenches, perhaps as a bit more of a free spirit? It's a very hard party to control.
I mean, this is the thing, we've talked about party unity within the Conservatives for a long time, as we did previously about the Labour Party, of course. But this is where it comes home to roost, isn't it? On what may be considered pretty small issues, but actually if they're happening time and time and time again, that's where you get the proper erosion, isn't it?
It certainly is. And compounding that, of course, is the news that 6 or 7 Conservative MPs have now announced that they will not be standing again at the next election. We're expecting that number to grow and grow as we're approaching a deadline imposed by the Conservative campaign headquarters, the 5th of December. That's the time by which CCHQ, as it's known, has told Conservative MPs they must commit to either standing or not standing in the general election, which we expect to be in 2 years' time. So given that there are a number of people who were seen to be sort of rising stars within the Conservative Party, young MPs, Deanna Davison, Will Wragg, Chloe Smith, these people announcing that they are standing down at the next election, perhaps that gives them more freedom as well to not follow what the government says so much on these issues.
What's the buzz?
Well.
I mean, you talk to these people off the record a lot. What is the buzz? Is it a general sense of depression? Are they more or less, know that they're going to lose the next election? Is there anyone wanting to fight back?
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple of things here, because first of all, the mood of the Conservative Parliamentary Party is very low. I haven't seen MPs, frankly, this depressed since May 2019, back when Brexit didn't happen. We went into those European elections that everyone was told should never have happened, and the Conservatives got 9% of the vote. It feels a bit like that now. It feels very, very bleak for the Conservative Party, and many of them are looking at these polls, looking at this 17% Labour lead and thinking, gosh, is it really worth for the next 2 years trudging down onto those doorsteps in the wind, in the cold, in the rain, just to get thrashed at the end of it? On the other hand, I've spoken to some people in the cabinet in the last week who have been saying that this is actually perhaps being read into too much. There have been boundary change reviews coming out, and indeed the seats are changing in and of themselves. So the reason for this 5th of December deadline set out by CCHQ is because some of these seats are changing, and sometimes Conservative MPs will have to sort of battle it out between 2 people in terms of who gets the seat, which bits have been carved up, and all the rest of it. So sometimes there is this element of boundary change muddled into this as well.
Labour 20 points ahead is more than that, isn't it?
Oh, certainly. But the point with the boundary change, of course, is that some of these seats will not exist at the next election, and so Conservative MPs are sort of vying for which ones, which sort of scraps they're going to get, which sort of half of their seat and half of another, who gets the new combination.
Who gets the bit that's going to be more likely to vote for them?
Yeah, that's it.
Is Labour ready for power?
Is Labour... That is a big question. What the Labour Party has been trying to do for the last 2 years is show that it is not scary. is try and not be too radical, not try to sort of almost eschew what happened over the last 5 years under Jeremy Corbyn. So it seems to have succeeded in terms of people not being scared of it anymore and sort of being the default there. But at the moment, I think it's fair to say the Labour lead is more to do with people being irritated by the Conservative Party than the Labour Party actually offering some sort of alternative, hopeful vision. They do have 2 years to sort of get some policies out there, but ultimately, as things stand, they are just sort of promoting themselves on a we will manage this better basis, rather than having any big difference in policy from the Conservative Party. I mean, I could name on one hand the policy differences that sort of the Labour Party is promoting between itself and the Conservative Party, and they're very, very minor. They're things like VAT on school fee bills for private schools. I mean, this is the sort of minutiae that is really differentiating the parties now.
Yeah. OK. Tom, thank you very much indeed. Maybe it's that minutiae is going to be enough. I don't know. Ready for
Who knows?
Ready for a change.
The mood could change anyway, couldn't it,
Well,
in the
it
next
could.
18 months or so?
Who knows? Who
So
knows?
nearly 11 minutes past 9. We've had some lovely more pictures sent in. Thank you very much of your Christmas decorations. This one's come in from somebody who says, I'm Welsh and my wife is Filipino. Our daughter is 2 on Christmas Day and she is English. In the Philippines, they begin putting decorations up in September. But we compromised and held off here in Manchester until just last week, and here is our tree.
Beautiful too.
Yeah,
Beautiful too. Heather says it's something to cheer it up with all the doom and gloom.
Yeah, it certainly is.
A nice bright one.
And Marion says this is our tree in our lounge at our retirement apartments in Folkestone. Happy Christmas to you all.
Oh,
Same
very
to
nice.
you. Thank you.
Well, this is mine.
Oh, Stephen, it's beautiful and
Nice.
big.
Yeah. It is.
Is that an 8-9 footer?
It is. Yes, it's a 9-footer. To trim the top off to fit the
It's almost
8
9 foot sideways as well.
It's very big.
I like that because it's got good sticky out branches, and that
Yeah.
means it always looks really good with lots of baubles on
It was one of those, you know, you see them when you're out shopping, and then you get it home and you cut all the. You think, ooh.
In
Oh,
America,
it's big.
in America, apparently, I only say this because I've seen it on so many sitcoms and things. The tree, you know, they lug the tree in its netting,
Yeah.
and then they stand it up, and then they have what they call the undressing of the tree. The tree undressing is a big deal thing, and they get out an enormous pair of scissors, and the father of the house cuts the netting, and then you watch the tree expand, and apparently that's a big thing in America.
Well, there you
Oh,
go.
and we've also had a lovely picture sent
this
in
is
to
from
you.
Trish Corbett.
Now, here's an unusual one because it features an upside-down tree.
She says it's always a talking point.
Yes, I'll bet it is.
I bet it is.
That's beautiful. It's on a stand, isn't it? So it's not hung from the ceiling.
No.
It's standing from the floor.
I just don't know why, Trish, you would do it.
Well, because it's
Why would you do
festive
that?
and unusual. I don't know. It's nice. I like it.
See, sorry, Trish, I don't like it.
No, but you're very traditional.
I am a traditionalist, yeah.
But
I
your tree
don't
is
like
lovely.
it.
If you can outdo Stephen's Christmas tree, you've got 3/4 of an hour to send your photo in, please, 'cause I'd like to see what you can do.
Oh, it's nice. It just feels all Christmassy.
It's lovely anyway, isn't it? It's really nice. John from Nairobi's got in touch because we were talking about some people are worried from this day onwards, the more we talk about Christmas, the more fed up they feel because they're lonely, they're on their own. What's the point of celebrating Christmas? John says, for lonely people, it would be helpful to go to a carol service at your local church. Even if you're not religious, the happiness of the congregation should lighten their hearts. Remember, it is Christ's birthday.
Yeah, Michael from Derbyshire says, believe it or not, go to a church service.
Yeah.
After all, this is the point of Christmas. I agree.
I agree. And you don't have to be religious because I think you'll find so many churches nowadays just try to do up they acknowledge, obviously, that it's all about Christ's birthday, but they just try and sing lovely hymns and lovely songs, and the decorations are always beautiful. And the people are always nice, actually. And I don't know, you'd get something out of going to a carol service. And if you've got a cat or a dog, look up locally, because there are lots of moggy and doggy services going on.
It's like the Vicar of Dibley.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. There are really good services
actually,
going
talking
on.
of pets, Baz from Cardiff says, I live alone with 2 dogs and 2 cats, but I'm never lonely, and I celebrate Christmas by giving presents as anonymous gifts. The joy of giving never leaves me. That's nice.
That's nice. That's lovely.
That's nice.
Look up your local doggy or moggy or pet Sunday service or something like that, or Christmas service. I'll bet there's one near you.
A dog
and that would
service,
be
right?
fun, because you'd meet like-minded people a bit, wouldn't
I
you?
don't think I'd like to take Timmy to a service. I don't think he'd like it very much.
No.
Just yowl.
You could take rabbits and ferrets and all sorts of things.
But it is very Vicar of Dibley. Do you remember when she did that?
Very, very much so. And it would be great fun. You'd meet all sorts of people. I had a lovely note from Farad. Did you see that?
Oh.
He said, "Hi, Anne and Steve. Anne, yesterday you mentioned how handsome the Iranian players were. It occurred to me to say I am a British Iranian and I'm handsome at that."
And modest.
You just proved my point. Anne Diamond is not just the best presenter, but she's also got taste. Whenever you're in Bristol, the drink is on me. Warmest regards to Stephen as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, took me in at the end, Farad.
We'll pop down to Bristol and have a drink on you. Thank you.
Yes. Well, there you go, Anne.
Yeah.
Handsome Iranians messaging you.
Isn't that nice?
Who needs Tinder? It's like a dating
Please
service.
don't. Well, you never know.
You never know. Look, keep your thoughts coming through. GBViews at gbnews.uk. It's 9:15. Let's have a look at some of the other headlines today.
Well, police have launched a murder investigation into the fatal stabbing of two 16-year-old boys in south-east London. The stabbings happened yesterday evening, a mile apart in Abbey Wood and Thamesmead. Detectives are trying to determine whether the incidents are linked.
The government says the online safety bill will be updated next month to criminalise the encouragement of self-harm. It says the changes were influenced by Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who ended her life in 2017 after viewing self-harm content. The new offence would target online material that manipulates the vulnerable, making it illegal to do so.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales have paid tribute to the rugby union great Doddy Weir, who died yesterday, aged 52. In a tweet, the royal couple called the former Scotland international a hero and an inspiration. He'd suffered from motor neurone disease, but used his profile to raise awareness of the condition and to raise funds.
Can you believe it? A week has gone at the Football World Cup in Qatar. It's flown by that, Anne. What about you?
How much longer?
Another 3 weeks or so?
Yeah. Let's ask Aidan. He'll know.
Aidan
Aidan's
will
joined
know.
us.
29 days it is. How you doing, all right?
From here? From now?
No, from now. So we've got 7 gone.
27 days-ish.
22.
Yeah.
22 to go.
Oh, yeah, OK.
And Angela Rippon said she's looking forward to day 30. So.
Yes, I can understand that, absolutely. Sort of. Unless we win, of course.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well, when it's going
In
on.
which case, I'd be right behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're not out yet. But I'll tell you what was interesting. You've raised a couple of points about the heat.
Yeah.
Story in the Daily Mail this morning saying that some of the England players were complaining about the heat after the game on Friday. It might explain why they looked a bit leggy, a little bit sluggish, although should consider that lots of teams are playing a lot of games in a short period of time. So we were told that this wasn't an issue before the tournament. In fact, the reason we had it in the winter, this tournament, is to get around the problems with the heat. The daytime temperature is about 33 degrees. For the evening games or the daytime games, they try and bring it down to about 24 Celsius, or in the evening games, sometimes they've been turning it off. Now, we understand that before the USA game on Friday, the heat was turned off about an hour before kickoff, but players, including Jack Grealish afterwards, said that it was too hot in the stadium. So you could just be cynical and say, well, that just sounds like an excuse. You can see a picture there for the benefit of our radio listeners of some of the England players looking particularly sweaty. But I suppose you would expect that in a football match, wouldn't you? But it might explain. You've raised it a couple of times, and I've said, oh no, it's not an issue. But it appears that some of the players are moaning about the heat. So I wonder whether something needs to be done about it. FIFA are going to maybe look into it and find out whether they need to try and make the temperatures a little bit cooler in the daytime. The England players are actually training, and they've got mist machines on the side of the pitches. Have you seen them? Yeah. Have you seen them? Yeah, they just go over to the side. They just go over to the side and just stick their head into this. Yeah. It looks like a cement mixer, something like that. And they get ice packs and vests and things like that. So it is an issue. And I decided to look into it.
We knew it was going to be an issue, though, didn't we? We talked about it months ago.
Well, yeah, we did. I mean, that's to say, that's the whole point of having it in the winter. But it was a Winter World Cup, but it's not been mentioned prior to now. It's almost been overlooked.
Well, it was meant. Oh, come on! It was meant when this was awarded.
Oh yeah, 2010. Yeah, exactly.
It
was, but no one's mentioned it in the last few weeks. That's what I'm saying. Apart from Anne. Anne's mentioned it a few times, and it piqued my interest. It piqued my interest, and I saw this report in the Mail, and I thought maybe bring it to the attention of our viewers. So there's no suggestion that FIFA have identified a problem necessarily, but But I don't think you can just assume that the temperatures are going to drop during the day to such a degree that it won't be a problem in the evening. And just turning it
playing
off.
football for that long in 33-degree temperatures is bound to take it out of you.
Yeah, it is.
Knocks
They
the
also
stuffing
do.
out of you, doesn't
I'll
it?
tell you what's interesting. They do a bulb test. So I didn't know what a bulb test was until about 20 minutes ago. So the temperature isn't the most reliable factor in determining the heat. They also do tests surrounding not just the heat, but also the level of humidity and other factors like the angle of the sun. So I didn't know all this. All that information feeds in to just how warm and how uncomfortable or comfortable it's going to be on the pitch. But with the players, I mean, you have to wonder why England's performance changed so much in 4 days, given that it was exactly the same team, exactly the same starting 11. Or, as I say, you could say I'm just making.
The whole lot just seems so totally corrupt, doesn't it? I mean, look, how they got it in the first place, they've had to change everything around to fit. You know, it's not suitable.
Well, it doesn't help that the Qataris are also changing the rules over how fans can behave and what alcohol they can consume before games as well. Yes, exactly. There's lots of goalposts moving. Going around about this tournament. But look, you know, we're a week into it, as you say. We have to try and make the best of it. And as Anne said, if England do go on and win it, then we'll all think it was a great idea, I suppose. You know.
I can't see it happening if they keep playing the way they did the other day.
No, you're probably right. But big day today as well. You've got Spain and Germany this evening. We had France yesterday getting through, the first team to qualify, and Argentina, of course, just rescuing their World Cup campaign, having lost their first game. Lionel Messi coming to the fore and getting a goal there. So I'll follow this story in terms of the warmth. But I mean, as I say, it wasn't on my agenda at all. As I say, it only really sort of came to my attention after you mentioned it. And it's easy for me to say the heat's not a problem. I'm sitting here.
Exactly.
Yeah, although you do like this studio quite warm, man.
Oh, it's like a sauna in here today. Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
We can't get it right here, can we?
No, we can't. No, aircon is an issue. Anyway, there's a blank seat for you. We're going to be putting Stephanie Tecci in that seat very shortly, so don't go anywhere.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers.
If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News. (9:24). Good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, tonight is the finale of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And all sorts has been going on because Mike Tyndall's out now, I think. So there are 3 of them left. Anyway, I'm not an expert on it. Neither is Stephen, but I'll tell you who is. Stephanie.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
So, basically, are we going to see Matt Hancock win?
There is a very big potential that he might win, but I think it's going to be Jill Scott, actually, the footballer, because she's been amazing from start to finish. She hasn't been in any controversy. She's got on with all the campmates, and she is a good sport. But if you asked me 3 weeks ago whether Matt Hancock would be making it to the final, I would have said not in a million years. I thought that the public just wanted to make him suffer through all the Bush Tucker trials, which they did, because they kept on voting for him over the space of 3 weeks.
But he was up for it,
But he was up for it, and he was very good, and he's kind of reconciled with the public. You know, he's been open about messing up with COVID, how he fell in love with Gina, so he's actually gained a fan base, especially among young TikTokers who I feel have been keeping him in and voting for him. But tonight is the grand finale, and it's going to be Matt Hancock, Jill Scott, and also the hunk, who I think is a hunk, Owen Warner from Hollyoaks. So they're going to be facing quite a gruesome Bush Tucker trial. So either they will be doing the flood your face, which is where their head will have to be in water full of critters, or they will either have the Bush Tucker bonanza, where they'll be feasting on some horrible delicacies, or the third one, which will be the rat race, which will see them being buried in a box full of 1,000 bugs. But this will be all in front of former campmates like Boy George, Charlene White,
I see.
Scarlett
They bring everybody else
So
in to
everyone's
have a
going to be
laugh.
coming back. But, you know, guys, whoever wins, these final 3, they're set for lucrative offers that are going to be coming their way once the show's over. And this is not the last time, Stephen, your face is making me laugh right now.
I just think,
Yeah, it's just such the kind of showbiz spiel that happens. And, you know, once they finish off the show, we're going to be seeing them with magazine deals, book deals, more TV deals. And this is not the last time.
Even the 2 runners-up?
Yeah, definitely, because they made it to the final. So it's like they've managed to build, you know, trust with the viewers, become quite likeable, because that's what people want to see when people are thinking of business deals. They want to know that people are into and entertained by, and Matt Hancock's proved that, and he's also going to be starring in Celebrity SAS, so this is not the last time we'll be seeing Matt Hancock.
Has he got somebody super-duper advising him on this? Because it sort of seems very well choreographed.
A few weeks ago, when I was reading the papers, it was saying that agents are literally fighting for Matt Hancock for speaking deals, book deals, so this is the birth of Matt. Who would have thought? And, you know, a lot of women are saying they have unlikely crushes
I know.
on Matt Hancock.
Oh, really?
So he's really turned it round.
And I also I wonder if people will now feel that he's been punished.
I think so.
And maybe more likely to forgive him of anything else in the future because they feel he's served his time.
Whether he still has a career in politics, that would be interesting.
Oh, well, no, that's done.
Guys,
finished.
the first thing he said that he wants to do as soon as he comes out of the jungle is hold a surgery in West Suffolk. So he seems like he's ready to go back to business. But
there'll probably be queues going into surgery. Not with political problems at all. They'll just want his autograph.
Well, he always said if anything major did happen, he would leave the jungle, but luckily he hasn't. So
I just think it's. Do you know what? And I may sound very unpopular with this, and forgive me. But it's like you say, all the deals for these people and all the rest of it. it's absolute showbiz tat.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because it's people who've been, we watch them eat testicles or whatever, and so therefore we decide they're likeable.
Yeah.
So therefore all these companies are going to throw huge amounts of money at them to sell products.
Yeah.
Where's the integrity in any? Even for Jill Scott, right? And I'm sure is a very nice person. I've no idea, but I'm sure she's very nice. But it's all you're just being used to flog stuff. That's basically it.
I can see her being the most credible with it because you can see she can talk well. She's very personable, and she has a stunning career behind her. You can see her commentating and being part of a BBC commentary team or something like that.
She will go far.
Which will absolutely make
Even if she doesn't win tonight, she'll be the true winner. But back to your point, Stephen, it's that whole 15 minutes of showbiz fame because they'll go through that cycle where they'll be everywhere, and then the hype will start again next year when they bring in new celebrity contestants. So it's very short-lived. It's nothing credible, but it's how it
Chris
works.
Biggins yesterday was saying it's the best thing that happened to him.
There's no business like show business. It's a show and it's a business.
Yeah. Isn't it? Maybe I'm just getting cynical.
Is it an extra specially long episode or something?
Yes, it's going to be 1 hour and 40 minutes.
What
and
sort
it's going
of
to be
viewers
ITV.
do they get?
They get about 12 million viewers a night. It's, as much as the public like to slag off whoever's in there, people still find themselves tuning in for Anton Deck, for all the Bush Tucker trials. I vote for you to go in next year, Stephen.
Never. I mean, people have... I tell you what, because people sort of say to me, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And build your career, you build your profile and all that sort of thing. Actually, my days off, I do some volunteer work for a charity and a bit of volunteer. It's like,
bits and pieces.
I'd rather do that. I think, well, actually go and meet someone for a drink who's a bit socially lonely and all whatever. And you think, well, I'd rather do that than actually raise my own profile. For what?
It's all egocentric. That's the thing about
isn't it?
That's what I hate about showbiz because, as much as I love it and I do it for a job, you are meeting a lot of people with egos who are surrounded by people who are also boosting up their egos, and money talks.
Yeah, and publicity talks.
Yeah.
That's why people like Katie Price managed to do so well, despite, their careers going up and down. She just does another interview for OK Magazine or something. Says something outrageous, does something outrageous, and suddenly she's wanted again by everybody. And, it's a weird business.
It really is. And, I know a lot of people said, why Matt Hancock? But a lot of the celebrities on this series have had a bit of controversy. Boy George, Sue Cleaver herself. So it's like there's so many. So Matt actually hasn't been the only one who's should have been on the naughty step in this series.
No.
And it puts their name up on the occasionally up on the front pages again, doesn't it?
It does.
And that is good in show business, but it's very brittle business.
Yeah, everyone likes it until it's time for you to get teared down by the papers.
Yeah, well, they do that. They do that too.
I just think there's got to be more to life.
Yeah.
And so many...
but you can also argue that it's entertainment.
Yeah, it is.
What's wrong with a bit of entertainment?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like it either, but it's entertainment. I don't like Strictly either. I think I must be really unusual.
Well, it's given me a job, so always
that's a good thing. We like you, darling. Steph, thank you very much.
Have an amazing rest of the show, guys.
Yes, indeed. Go off and buy your Christmas tree, because today's the day to do it.
Yes, it is, it is. Look, we've got plenty more to come, including a quick rock around the clock for you.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory.
twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
It's 9:36. Everybody has heard of Bill Haley and the Comets.
I would have thought so.
It doesn't matter how old you are.
And you only have to hear the music and it takes you right back back to days you probably don't even remember yourself.
Yeah, well, exactly so, because I mean, you know, Bill Haley and the Comets started 70 years ago this month.
70.
Wow.
They were incredibly successful, placed 9 singles in the US top 20. And, many music historians say they brought rock and roll into the mainstream culture. They sort of were at the very beginning of rock and roll.
Yeah. So it's an incredible legacy, but perhaps not quite the same sort of level of sort of commercial success as people like Elvis Presley and the Beatles and what have you.
They came after, didn't they?
Yeah.
But they owed a lot to
the
the sound created by Bill Haley.
Well, this morning we can talk to Bill Haley Jr. Good morning to you. Lovely to see you this morning. Look, I mean, it's fascinating that 70 years is a remarkable anniversary, and it's amazing to look back at the history and all the rest of it. But, I mean, it's fascinating because, you had such a difficult relationship with your father, didn't you? I mean, how does it feel to be celebrating someone who was incredibly talented, but was also someone who was very difficult?
Well, thanks for having me. It's kind of strange, but actually I wrote a book about it called Crazy Man, Crazy, the Bill Haley Story, and I really talk about that, exactly what you're talking about, that relationship that was difficult. So the process of actually writing the book and then putting together a tribute band where I go out and perform my father's music and tell his story has been extremely therapeutic and cathartic and healing for me. And particularly meeting fans and seeing how much joy this music brought to them has been very, very healing to me. So even though it was very difficult for me growing up and I harbored some negative feelings toward my father because of the way he abandoned our family, frankly, I've really come full circle with that, and I actually have a lot of empathy and admiration for my father now.
Place him in history for us. Before he came along and made rock and roll very, very fashionable and acceptable to a certain extent, because it was always a bit outrageous, wasn't it, seen at the time. What was happening musically before he came along?
Well, my dad was actually what they call a hillbilly and Western artist. We call it country music now, but that was really his first love. But he had an ambition to become rich and famous, and he was going to do that by getting kids to dance. So because of his travels around the country as a young musician and then as a radio disc jockey, he was exposed to rhythm and blues, which was then called race music. And in a segregated society, that was not common. But because of his exposure and his love of the music, he started experimenting. And as a white hillbilly band, started playing rhythm and blues music. And of course, encountered a lot of, opposition for that. But he cultivated a following, and then he wrote a record in 1953. He wrote a song and recorded called Crazy Man Crazy. Became a national hit record, reached number 12 on Billboard, number 13 in Cashbox. And it caught the attention of the major record labels. And he got signed to Decca Records and recorded a song called Rock Around the Clock in April of 1954. A year later, it was used on the soundtrack of the movie Blackboard Jungle. And that was really the demarcation point. By July 55, it was the first number one record in rock and roll. And it really just opened the floodgates, so to speak. And Elvis and Chuck Berry and Little Richard and many other artists followed, and rock and roll was born.
Well, that's a remarkable thing. It's when you churn out the dates, Bill, like you do there. I mean, Rock Around the Clock, so we recorded it 69 years ago, and it's still played on the radio today. I mean, that's absolutely astounding, really.
It really is quite amazing, and it's such an improbable song, too. It really, was written in the key of F, and my father changed, with a shuffle rhythm, and my father brightened it up to the key of A, and he actually changed the melody line to something similar to Hank Williams' Moving On Over. My father was a big fan of Hank Williams. And as I said, the song was a throwaway B-side of a record called 13 Women and Only One Man in Town. Probably would have been forgotten, but a youngster by the name of Peter Ford, whose father was an actor, was starring his father was starring in the movie Blackboard Jungle. And it was just pure serendipity. The director of the movie was over at the Ford's house and mentioned they would need a song for the soundtrack of a very shocking, controversial movie. And Glenn said, let's check out Peter's record collection. And lo and behold, they chose Rock Around the Clock. And due to that exposure on the movie, it really became a phenomenon.
And then, of course, he got invited onto the Ed Sullivan Show, didn't he? Which even we in Britain know it was the big show that really started the Beatles being so popular in America. And that must have been an astounding signpost in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, Ed Sullivan was not a fan of the music and actually insulted my father about his Kiss Curl, made a derogatory remark. But the exposure was tremendous, and that was really, the beginning of a series of television appearances and all kinds of exposure. But Ed Sullivan, yes, he was the show that everyone watched on, I think it was Sunday evenings, if I remember now, because I remember watching the Beatles in '64. But yeah, the whole country turned into that television show, and that really, put him on the map, so to speak, for good.
I mean, what went so wrong for your dad in terms of your private life? And the fact, I was just looking up, I can't believe it, he died at 55. I mean, it's such a young age.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's not really that uncommon for entertainers. But in my father's case, unfortunately, he turned to alcohol, and that was really started, coincidentally or not, interestingly. He did that massive tour of the UK in February and March of '57. And that was really kind of, from that point on, things went downhill slowly, of course, but he turned to alcohol. And by 1962, he was, really in the grips of that disease, and all his business interests had failed. He had tax issues due to poor accounting and poor management. And he fled the country and moved to Mexico, where he actually had another career as the king of the twist down in Mexico, interestingly. But the rest of his life, he was really kind of chasing that fame that heights of fame that he never could reattain. And I think, you alluded to his personal life, the fact that he abandoned his first two families. And I think he had a lot of issues and troubles. And actually, I got back in touch with him in the last year and a half of his life. And the day before he died, he called myself and I'm sure my brothers and other people. And he was extremely distressed about his marriage to his third wife. And I think that psychological state that he was in, he was living in a pool house behind his house. And he was pleading with me to call his current wife, his third wife, to get them back together. And of course, I couldn't do that. and the next day I heard he died, but I think it was a combination of his drinking. He was a heavy smoker. And I think, psychologically, he was really in a bad state. So I think all three of those factors combined to contribute to his early death, for sure.
Well, his musical legacy is undoubted. You've got this tribute band together. Are you going to come to England? Are you going to come to Britain?
Well, hopefully, I have appeared, I think, 5-6 times without my band at the Hemsby and Shake, Rattle, and Roll Festival, the Reading Rockers. Very successful when I was there, and I'm hoping to be invited back. Actually, I was scheduled to come during COVID, and that was postponed. So we'll see if I get back there. But and of course, I'd love to bring my band as well. But we tour very frequently here in the U.S., and we actually did a very successful tour of New Zealand in 2014. So hopefully, we'll get over to England soon.
Well, you've got the name for it, haven't you?
Yeah, Bill, really good to talk to you this morning.
Great,
thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
Bill
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
You.
Yeah.
I love the fact it's funny because the kiss curl.
Yeah.
They see
we see Elvis.
We call it cowlick.
That's right, we do, don't we? Yeah.
Cowlick.
Yes.
Don't know why.
No, I don't. But of course, Elvis must have borrowed that from him.
Yeah.
Mustn't he? Because Elvis always at the beginning of his career, particularly. So did Cliff.
Yes,
they all had that, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was a look.
You see, but it's a remarkable man. Remarkable.
But I mean, as is the way with so many professional musicians, particularly those who make it so incredibly famous, they often have very, very difficult private lives. And in those early days, I mean, just look at Elvis. Drink and drugs always is a problem too. Yeah. And so many of them died young. But there you are. What a heck of a name, though, and a heck of a legacy.
Now, let's move on to something completely different, because the Welsh Government has launched a new environmental initiative. It's called My Tree, Our Forest, and it's giving every household in Wales a tree for free.
A staggering 295,000 trees are up for grabs, and their planting will contribute to the National Forest for Wales to help tackle climate change, as well as improving the nation's mental health as well.
Yeah, Jeff Moody went to Cardiff to find out more.
A sunny autumn day in Cardiff. And the Great Tree Giveaway is going strong. There's 300,000 trees up for grabs, available from 50 collection hubs up and down the country. Sophie Bolton has been handing out trees all day. She says take-up has been high.
I think it's a really great idea that everyone can do their bit to help the environment, to help nature. So all the trees are sort of native trees to Wales, and they're all beneficial to the environment. They're beneficial to birds, to insects. The oak tree I just read has got over 300 different species can be supported by an oak tree, which is amazing. But even the smaller trees, they just do so much for our landscape and for our environment.
And that's the idea. So that Wales can become carbon neutral by 2050, experts have calculated the country needs to plant 86 million trees. This scheme is a start, and out of small acorns do oak trees grow. There are 10 different species of tree on offer here, from native trees to broadleaf trees, from maples to rowans, right up to the mighty oak. And the people here will match your garden to the perfect tree. The scheme is run by Wales's Woodland Trust. Volunteers are sharing their advice and helping the public choose the right tree for the right spot. Trees will be given out on a first-come, first-served basis from any of the 50 hubs. People can either order one online or come out in person.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, who would not do it? We've lost 3 ashes in the last year with ash dieback, so we've got a little bit of space to put something else in. And why not?
Organisers say the My Tree, Our Forest initiative is a simple and cost-effective way of helping the environment. There are no plans as yet to roll the scheme out across the rest of the UK, but the Welsh Government hopes if the scheme goes well, other nations will follow suit. Jeff Moody, GB News.
So I do think it's a very nice idea, and even just seeing any plant, but seeing a tree grow is a lovely thing.
It is.
If you're going to be in the same house for quite a number of years. Lovely.
I tried moving a tree with us at one point, because I'm not leaving this tree behind, because I've nurtured it and I took it with me, but they don't take very well to being uprooted and replanted at all.
No, they don't like
it. There's a lot of controversy around about whether or not it still is too early to be talking about putting up your tree. But we are told that today is the day for going out and choosing one, if you're going for a live one. Today's the day. And Irene, by the way, has got in touch about upside-down Christmas trees, which we saw earlier.
Oh, shit.
She said, I had one because my living room was very small. So an upside-down tree takes up much less floor space.
Oh.
Have a great Christmas when it comes.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Joe says, we managed to talk my hubby around yesterday to get out the Christmas decorations. He was reluctant to start with, but has agreed the tree does look lovely.
You see, it does. Once you make the effort, it's just worth doing. But as we're saying, today is the day, apparently, to buy the best day to buy a Christmas tree.
Yeah, and get into the mood. Because it takes a while. I mean, you were astonishingly quick at buying one, putting it up in the living room, decorating it all in one day.
No messing about.
But how do you choose the right tree? How do you then keep it happy and healthy when it's sitting in your living room instead of in a forest? Joining us now is Andrew Ingram, the owner of the Tree Barn at a wonderful place called Christmas Common. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. You seem to be a bit fuzzy, but we understand that you're in this wonderful place called Christmas Common and you've got a Christmas tree growing plantation, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got about 120,000 trees growing on the farm, Christmas trees. We sell about 16,000, 17,000 a year, every year.
You actually supply some of your big, stupendous trees to quite famous addresses, do you not?
Well, we have done 10 Downing Street in the past and some very sort of ritzy hotels in London, a lot of big Oxford colleges and lots of town halls and such around Oxfordshire and Berkshire.
Windsor Castle at all?
No, no, we haven't got that.
Well, there's time for that one.
We're working on that one.
Working on that one. Look, what makes a good tree? What should we be looking out for? Because people don't know even what type of tree. Do you go for like a Nordman or a thingy fir? What are they called?
I don't know. There are so many choices now.
Nordic blues and all this. What do you go for? What's the best tree?
Well, the most popular tree, and probably 70 to 80% of the market at the moment, is a Nordman fir. And if you're looking for a decent tree, the absolutely critical thing to do is to, sorry, the phone's going, is to ascertain the weight of a tree. The problems with trees shedding their needles start because it's dehydrated. So the first thing to check when you're buying a tree is that is heavy enough. If you pick up a tree and it's lighter than it should do, you'll know immediately that it's short of water, and that's your first step towards a tree that's going to drop its needles. Obviously, shape and density is a personal thing, but you want a nice pyramidal shaped tree and good color, good dark green. You wouldn't want to pick up a yellow tree, one which is sclerotic. So that's it, really. It's weight, good heavy tree, good shape, and good color.
And what do we do then to keep it going in terms? Because water. I mean, over the last few years, I've been watering the tree, but I mean, years ago we never did that. No one seemed to know to water the Christmas tree.
Well, that is just following on from what I've said. You're quite right. You've got to water your tree. There are now a lot of stands available to purchase which will water holding stands. And it's just treat a tree like you would a cut flower. You would never dream of putting a cut flowers into a vase with no water, and it's just the same. If it's a dry tree, it will take up moisture and it will help it to, keep hydrated and hold its needles for longer.
OK, well, good business. I'm sure you're making fast business at the moment. Have a good day today. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Well, let's get your pictures. Anne says, we live in a barn in Derbyshire. To access the size of the tree, the door on the left...
Can you see the picture?
...is a standard size.
Oh, my goodness, that's a big tree then.
That is a very big tree.
That's huge.
Wow. And Heather and Rob from Sheffield says their tree's been up since the 6th of November. Oh, and there we are this morning.
That's lovely.
Oh, that's a lovely
I don't
tree.
blame you. I think get the Christmas decorations up as early as possible and get into the mood. Caroline says, Happy Christmas from Norwich. And that's her tree. Oh, I love it.
Oh, that's tinsel-tastic, that
yeah,
one.
it is. And there's no doubt. You walk into that room, you know it's Christmas, don't you?
You see, now that's one thing I need to get more of, really.
Tinsel. I don't know whether I'm into tinsel anymore.
Like a bit of tinsel around the middle. Gotta
You've
say.
got plenty on your... You've got plenty at the moment. Are you going to carry on adding to it?
No, I'm thinking for next year.
Oh, already.
Thinking for next year. Might buy, 3 or 4 more tinsel strands, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, that's the nice thing about shopping for Christmas is there's always something new to put up, isn't there? We need one behind here, don't we?
We shall see what we can do. Look,
we'll work on it.
That is it from us. Up next is Michael Portillo.
Looking ahead, the UK is looking cloudy and damp in the southeast, but brighter and blustery in the northwest. So let's take a look at the detail now.
Well, southwest England retaining some cloud through the day. 1 or 2 bright spells possible. Cornwall and Devon staying pretty dry, but some rain possible from Dorset eastwards.
And this early rain across southeast England could clear initially before redeveloping later, possibly heavy at times. It'll be mildest here, though, climbing towards 13.
Wales going to have a generally cloudy day, but there'll be some hazy sunshine poking through. It's going to feel a little bit fresher than Saturday.
And there could be some weak sunshine across central England as well, with the thickest cloud continuing to lift. But even where grey skies prevail, it'll remain predominantly dry through today.
And northern parts of England having a dry second half of the weekend. The wind's lighter compared to Saturday, helping it feel less brisk when you step outside.
Scotland, meanwhile, will keep the blustery winds today, with scattered showers pushing into the northwest. These could be heavy at times, accompanied by hail and the odd rumble of thunder.
Moving on to Northern Ireland, blustery showers, but also some sunny spells. Across the north of the area, temperatures slightly down compared to Saturday, at highs of about 10 Celsius.
And the showers will feed into Wales and southeast England later, whilst the rain in the southeast gradually clears. And that's your weather today.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate.